In the gloomy evening, a man's piercing scream echoed from a certain hall. He sat in front of his wife, shielding her, his thigh bearing a severe burn mark from a hot iron, panting and repeatedly begging, please, give us one more month. The thug, who was holding the iron, looked down on them with contempt, threatening, if you borrow money from anyone, you better sell your organs to pay it back. That's the basic principle of being human. He then slowly brought the iron closer to the man's face, with a grotesque smile. Yeah, we need to let you taste some suffering, so you'll understand the pain of those who cannot get their money back. At this moment, the wife grabbed her phone and started texting, her whole body trembling with fear. The thug noticed the strange behavior of the woman hiding behind her husband. He immediately snatched the phone out of her hand. He guessed roughly, what, trying to call the cops? I already told you, it's useless. But when he looked at the text messages, he was a little surprised. It was a conversation between her and her son. I cannot reach you. Where are you? An unsent message, no matter what. Do not come home. Understand? This made the thug grin with delight. Why bother torturing you too when we can torture your son instead? The couple immediately became terrified and frantic upon hearing about their son. No, do not touch my son. The other thugs rushed forward to restrain them. The thug ordered, shut them up completely. Do not let them make a noise. His subordinates then used rope and tape to carry out the order, tying up the couple tightly and preventing them from making a sound, while the thug waited leisurely for their son to arrive. You know, I do not want to scare your son too much. When he heard a knock on the door, he turned around menacingly. Looks like he's here. Senyu was standing outside, his hand on the doorknob. He was silent and looked solemn. Then he slowly opened the door. When the door cracked open, his mother burst into tears and tried to yell please, but was immediately gagged by one of the thugs. When the door was fully opened, he stood before a scene of hell. The thugs began to hide along the walls, waiting for the right moment to jump out. He acted as it was a normal day, taking off his shoes and placing his bag down, announcing, I'm home. He slowly walked into the hall. One thug immediately jumped out, raising a club. He struck Senyu on the back of his neck, causing Senyu's body to fall forward. The mother, tied up, could only watch the scene in horror, but something was off. When the thug swung the club, he did not fall to the ground. On the contrary, his entire body became stiff as a nail. Before the thug could do anything, Senyu punched him hard in the face, sending the club flying out of his hand. The thug standing behind could only watch his teammate's body fly towards him. His face was steaming, his features were distorted, and it scared the thug half to death. He gritted his teeth and looked over fearfully. What is this? When he looked again, a surge of power emanated from Senyu's body, while blood still flowed from his head. The thug shouted, what are you waiting for? Kill that bastard. They also followed and rushed towards him, shouting in unison, kill him. Senyu quickly dodged 2 blows from 2 thugs. He bent down, then punched one of them in the hip. His ribs shattered from just that punch. The thug was in so much pain that he could not even hold on his weapon. Senyu pulled his hand back, then punched him again in the ribs. His ribcage could not take it and shattered completely, causing him to widen his eyes, with veins popping everywhere, and yelled out in immense pain. Above Senyu's head, a foot was coming down. He spun quickly and grabbed his leg, then kicked the remaining supporting leg of the thug. He broke his leg and retreated. Then another thug came from behind with a chair. He smashed the edge of the chair on Senyu's head. Senyu gritted his teeth and endured. At the same time, the blow did not faze him. He looked up the thug with hateful eyes, which caused him to be terrified. Before he could do anything, he was sent flying, hitting his back hard against the wall near the thug, which surprised him. Seeing everyone brutally slaughtered by him, he stammered, oh, what is this? He held the knife in his hand and looked towards Senyu's parents. The thug grabbed Senyu's father's head and lifted him up, posing a threatening display. Let's see if this old man can still move after I beat him to death. He did not know that his threat was foolish. Sun-U grabbed the hot iron and threw it at his face. With just 1 blow from the iron, he smashed the thug's head into the door, the force causing a large hole in the wooden door. His parents watched in shock at their son. He pulled the iron back, the thug's head now embedded in the door. He was now covered in blood, his teeth were mostly knocked out, and he could only croak out of, my neck, call 911, is anyone here? He kept screaming in pain, is anyone there? But inside the hall, all his subordinates had been eliminated by Senyu, without a single one left. Senyu was breathing heavily, his head covered in blood. His parents were looking at him, exhausted. Senyu knelt down and started untying them. He said while panting, if you did not want me to fight, then you should not have been this poor. He glanced at his parents. He then collapsed onto the floor. His mother was very worried. Senyu, she cried out, Kang Senyu. He was taken to the hospital along with the thugs who were present. They were constantly yelling in agony. The hospital was in chaos. They kept begging, Doctor, save me. Amidst such a rushed scene, a man appeared at the counter. He went over and asked the receptionist, what's going on? What's all this chaos? She replied, the debtor took down 10 thugs. Then he adjusted his glasses and continued, and a high school student did it by himself. Hearing this important information, his pupils constricted. The thug leader, in critical condition, managed to say to his underlings, "Find that bastard and kill him." His subordinate replied, "But he's in the hospital too." Then he sneered, saying, "Black Bear just left. The kid is probably dead by now." The man flinched when he heard Black Bear. Then he asked, "Which room is the student in?" The receptionist looked up the computer and replied, "Yes, room 202. In the emergency room, the sound of footsteps echoed constantly. He was running quickly to Sinyu's hospital room. As he ran, he thought, if Black Bear is in this area, then that kid must be one of the 4 potential fighters I'm looking for. This will also help me assess the candidate's potential." Then he stopped in front of the hospital room. Unfortunate that this involves him. He looked at the nameplate. It is Kang Sunyu. Then he pressed his eye against the window, thinking, this high school student is so pitiful. The scene before him was Sen-U facing a man who was 3 times bigger than him. It was Black Bear. He had just arrived at the hospital and was already aggressive like this. Black Bear growled, "Just because of a piece of high school trash they call me here. Do not hate me too much. I still have a debt to collect." His eyes turned a scary red. He added, "But you're quite interesting." Then grinned, revealing his sharp teeth. "You've seen me. And you're not scared." Sen-U, on the other hand, was no less imposing. He directly pulled the IV drip out of his vein. He said, "But you're quite interesting." Then grinned grotesquely, "You've seen me. And you're not scared." Sen-U pulled out the IV line, ready to confront him. Black Bear raised his hand high and swiped down. "Then I'll teach you a lesson, to show you what fear is." He also charged forward, raising his fist to his face. The 2 matched speed, which surprised the young man standing outside, too fast. But in the end, Black Bear grabbed Sinu's head first, smashing his head hard against the floor, immediately causing his body to fall forward. Blood spurted from his mouth and nose. His eyes widened, as if his soul had left his body. The young man raised his glasses, watching anxiously. Just as I thought." Black Bear looked back at his bloodied hand, laughed. "Kid, no matter how crazy you are, charging towards me like that only makes me want to punch you harder. If you do not show anything, and you do not know fear, then that's the fastest way you die." But instead of giving up, he slowly stood up, which surprised him somewhat. "You can still stand up." Sen-U wiped the blood from his lip. "You talk too much." It was as if Black Bear had been splashed with cold water. He gritted his teeth and snorted. He decided to retaliate and charged his whole body at him. This is more like it." The young man felt worried. What, is he really going to kill that kid? I have to stop him now. Before he could even intervene, Sen-U dodged his grasp, lowering his body and raising his leg. He kicked Black Bear hard in the face, causing him to lose his balance and stumble backward. The young man outside the door was also taken aback, his pupils dilating in surprise. Black Bear's face seemed to contort, his temple caving in on one side, blood spraying from his ear. The young man's eyes widened in disbelief. He had never heard of Black Bear being defeated. But Black Bear was not easily knocked down. He immediately placed his hand on the floor, regaining his balance. The young man adjusted his glasses, anticipating the outcome, right? How could Black Bear possibly lose? He was known as the Muscle King throughout the country. Black Bear laughed. "You really think I'd give up after being hit by some high school kid?" Just as he thought he could gloat, in less than a second, Sen-U launched another attack, hitting Black Bear's face, causing the hospital room floor to crack from the impact of Black Bear's hard head. The young man felt even more disoriented. This was too absurd. Sen-U relentlessly struck Black Bear's face directly. Black Bear's face was now red with strain. Instead of taking the blows, Black Bear wrapped his arms around Sen-Yu's back, locking him in a tight hold. He grinned menacingly. "I have to use my ultimate move on some high schooler." The young man muttered to himself, "Is not that Black Bear's signature move, Bone Crusher? I have to stop him now." Then Black Bear began to squeeze his arms, trying to break Sinu's bones with the pressure. He tilted his head back and shouted, "How laughable." At that moment, the young man flung the door open, rushing in to stop them. "Stop, please stop." But neither of them relented, locked in their position. As Sen-U started to straighten his body, an aura emanating from them, the young man stood there, astonished. The room filled with smoke, but the fight remained undecided. Black Bear looked at Sen-U in shock. "What, my body is going numb? No, I clearly put all my strength into it." Sen-U slowly grasped his shoulders and lifted his head, to Black Bear's utter disbelief. Black Bear kept saying, You can still move, your bones are completely fine." Black Bear tried with all his might to tense his muscles and tighten his grip. "This time, I'll crush you into pieces." But Sen-U still straightened up, his bones completely unharmed, causing Black Bear to yell, "How?" They did not break. In response, Sen-U slammed his head into Black Bear's face. It was like a steel bar hitting a cotton ball. Blood gushed out with just one blow. Black Bear's face was being destroyed, his mind racing. Are his bones made of metal or something? Sen-U slammed his head into Black Bear's face again. Black Bear's face was deformed, as if something hard had been driven into it. Sen-U did not stop, continuing to hit him with his hard head, until the young man spoke up. "Stop, he's unconscious." Then he bent down and rubbed Sen-U's back. "Calm down now." He then looked at Black Bear's body and said, "If you keep hitting him, the cleanup is going to be troublesome." He then called the medical team. Room 202, Building B, head injury due to a traffic accident. Please help us handle this. He breathed heavily, looking up and asking, who are you? Are you on their side? He replied, hump, whatever. Then he said, I was thinking about forming a team with you. Senyu completely did not understand. What the heck are you talking about? As the medical team entered the room, they stood before Black Bear's corpse, briefly falling silent. Then they turned to the young man and reported, confirmed. Is that all? The young man nodded. How can we be sure Black Bear will not wake up again? The team leader then commanded, let's begin. They began clearing away the body. Senyu stared at the scene, feeling alien. He turned and asked, what are you guys doing? The young man handed Senyu a red card, saying this is someone who can give you everything you want. He took it and looked at it, slightly surprised. The young man continued, all you have to do is fight for that person. But the offer was met with a dismissal from Senino. Get lost. After crumpling the card, Senyu decisively threw it in the trash. I'm not interested in fighting for money. Then he walked straight to the door, mumbling, what kind of scam are they trying to pull on me? The young man could only watch him leave and clicked his tongue. Tusk. His thinking can change. It seems like he knew that Senyu would soon need the organization. He walked straight out the door, trying to scam me again. Huh. The young man could only watch his back and click his tongue. Tusk, you will change your mind. His expression turned somber. Senyu was in the men's restroom. He washed his face to regain his composure. Then looking in the mirror, he lamented, damn it, even if my life is a mess, I must at least fulfill Mom's wish of never fighting. Suddenly someone opened the door. What are you doing here? Son, it was his father. Senyu turned in surprise. His father asked, where are you going in this state? Senyu turned, angrily repeating, in this state. He started to yell, who do you think is responsible for this state? You're a boxing champion, are not you? You were even invited to the Nash team. How come you did not do anything, but instead brought a pile of deb home? What, is your pride as a champion too big to work in a shabby gym? I do not know why you were kicked off the national team. But that pride of yours, is it more important than my sick mother? He received only silence in return. Finally, his father left, instructing, do not even think about going anywhere, stay in the hospital, making Sen-U resentful. In his heart he cursed, this is so annoying. Suddenly a headache hit him, making him dizzy. Senyu fell to the floor, sitting under the sink, clutching his head and thinking, my head, is it because I have not been sleeping enough lately? He muttered again, no, it must be that every time I see my father, my head hurts, I hate him. Just 1 week in critical condition because of the injury, has already used up all of our savings. Bowing his head before the parents of my bullies, he cannot help me with anything, so I do not want to trust anything he does, but it seems like my life is falling off a cliff. As a high school student, I cannot even rent a fishing boat. How am I supposed to change my life? I cannot even take care of my daily expenses. A friend of his age approached him at that moment, offering, do you want to become my subordinate? But Senyu was too busy with his part-time job to accept. I'm busy, so get lost. They did not let him go easily. They made their accomplices destroy his delivery bike. The guy even laughed scornfully, then you're dead for sure, Howa. He always remembered those memories. Because of those bullies, his debts with his father had increased even more. And I cannot leave home and abandon my mother. My life is truly at rock bottom. Senyu then suddenly sat up on his hospital bed. He clutched his head in pain. I fainted again. What the heck? Why did they move me to another room? Senyu then took out his phone. How long have I been lying here? He was surprised. It's a text from my father. His father had texted Senino, son, I think it's time to tell you everything, tonight. He gritted his teeth, wondering, what else is he hiding from me? Senyu then tapped on his mother's chat. What about Mom? He decided to try calling his mother, but his father picked up and he spoke first. Is Mom okay? His father responded urgently, Senna, do not come home. There are some thugs hiding here. It's very dangerous, making Senyu feel uneasy. What? He worriedly instructed, stay put. I've moved you to another hospital under a different name. You'll be safe there, as Senyu was also restless, getting out of bed while asking, what about Mom? His father replied, your mom is hiding in a motel near the police station, so do not worry about her. I cannot stay on the phone long. He then said, son, do not go wandering around right now. Okay, I'm hanging up. After that, he left Senyu in a moment of contemplation. Senyu gritted his teeth, damn it, it's all my fault. If only I had not provoked those guys. Then he rushed out with his phone in hand. First, I have to find Mom. Suddenly, another call came from his father, making him a little surprised. Father. He answered, hello. From the other side was a different man's voice. You're Mir Kang's son, right? He replied, yes, I am, but who are you? The person on the other side immediately announced, the situation is very bad. Kong fell and is unconscious, making Senyu incredibly worried. What? On the other side, his father, while working, had fallen from a high place. He had apparently broken his limbs, and the risk of death due to blood loss was very high. In the intensive care unit, he stood beside his father's hospital bed. His father's entire body was bandaged, and his life depended on a respirator. The doctor had told him that the surgery was very difficult, and the surgery fee alone would be 100 million won, and after the surgery, there would be several years of expensive treatment and rehabilitation costs. Just thinking about it, tears welled up in Senyu's eyes in agony. He sat down by the bed and cried. He held his head in despair. Why? In the silence he wondered, what should I do? But then Sen-yu remembered something. It was the card that the young man had given him. If he was not mistaken, according to his memory, he threw it in the trash, that card. Sen-yu thought he had to go back there right away. I have to go back to that room. At the hospital in the late afternoon. Back to room 202. He rushed to the place, panting heavily from exhaustion. Sen-yu slowly walked over and pulled the trash can towards him. But the harsh reality was, the card had disappeared. It was gone. He completely lost hope, and could only hunch over and tremble in self-reproach. Damn it. It's all my fault. Senyu's face was soaked with tears, constantly repeating, I'm sorry, I cannot do anything. Then he cursed himself, maybe it would be better if I died. As if the heavens were looking out for Senyu, the young man stood at the door holding the red card up. Are you looking for this? He turned around startled. He's a bit smug. Change your mind. Senyu immediately asked, how much can you pay me? He immediately made an offer, at least 10 billion if you win, which made him surprised. He added, even if you do not win but become famous, you can still earn a lot of money. So do you agree to this offer? Senyu stared wide-eyed at the man. He said, at least 10 billion if you win. This exorbitant price startled him. He added, even if you do not win but become famous, you can still earn a lot of money. So do you agree to this offer? This made Senyu think for a long time. At his office, a large nameplate was mounted on the door, with his title Annex. Senyu was invited to a private meeting with him. The young man handed over a contract, saying, read this, if you agree, sign it. He looked at it in surprise, a fighting arena. He replied, this is an underground tournament, where fighters with monstrous strength use the stimulants that the hospital provides for competition. Senyu, with his sharp eyes, said, stimulants, I do not know anything about that. He immediately pulled out a box filled with various vials containing different liquids, which made him surprised. The young man then held up a vial, introducing it. This is not your ordinary stimulant. Depending on the type, it can transform an old man on the verge of death into a monstrously strong person. Of course, using stimulants is not mandatory. He now understood something. Wait, who exactly are you? He replied, sorry for not introducing myself earlier. I am Kim Min-seok, a scout for a VIP who participates in the tournament. He was surprised. A scout? Min-seok then said, what's important now is not who I am but the stimulants. No fighter has ever won without using stimulants. He insisted. I said I will not use them. He replied, you'll be better informed about the stimulants when you enter the competition zone. In his heart, Senyu scolded, this guy is not listening to me at all. Min-seok continued to speak incessantly about working with us. If you pass the tournament and get into the top 20, you will get a sponsor. At that point, you will be able to choose a VIP to be your sponsor and fight with us to the championship. It's that simple. Senyu had no choice but to say, alright, I understand, now give me the money, that's all I need. Min-seok set a condition, oh there's one problem, you only get paid during the tournament, which made him shout, what? He immediately slammed the table and stood up, glaring at the man and yelling, are you kidding me? Why should I work with you then? Seeing him become agitated, Min-seok became even more interested. He calmed him down by bringing up his weak points. Oh, calm down, you need the money for the surgery and to keep your parents safe, right? Senyu was stunned after hearing that. Who are you? How do you know that? He replied, as long as you work for Mike, I will take care of your parents' safety, their surgery and treatment costs, even dealing with the debt collectors. Hearing those benefits, he could not believe it. How can I trust that? His phone rang again. Senyu picked up his phone and looked. It's my mom. He held the phone to his ear and answered the call. What is it, Mom? His mother on the other side reported, Senyu, I heard that you paid for your father's hospital bill. You even sent bodyguards here. Which made him somewhat stunned. That Min-seok said, I've prepared a safe hall for you to rest. To be honest, I have no other choice but you, Kang Senyu. He then replied to his mother, Mom, those people. It was me who sent them there. Just do as they say. I'll be there soon. His face remained expressionless, as if frozen in shock. His mother felt strange. Senyu. He did not say anything more. I'll call you back later. He then hung up and looked at the ground. Senyu, after a moment of struggling with his thoughts, looked up and asked, what do I have to do to get 10 billion won? He replied 10 billion is just a benchmark, which surprised him. Min-seok added, depending on the amount of money people bet on you, this number can increase. The winner can even receive 15 billion won. Senyu kept repeating, this is crazy. He replied, it's not impossible. Compared to the price that the fighters are paying, it's quite small. Another truth made him speechless. Min-seok spoke, many people have become disabled, even lost their lives. In fact, only 10% of the fighters who participate from previous tournaments can leave the tournament without any injuries. He seemed to pat him on the back and also give him a blow to the head, causing Senyu to struggle with his thoughts. Are you crazy? So many people have died and no one knows. He replied, exactly, so many people have died, that's why it has to be kept a secret. Senyu was surprised. What did you say? He pointed to the signature box on the contract, warning, "Once you sign this document, the first thing we do is to create an alibi." He widened his eyes in surprise. "An alibi?" Min Seok immediately replied, "The hospital is a place to facilitate the tournament because it's the best place to create an alibi. You can participate by having the camera record or buy an item under your name to create an alibi. There is no death that we cannot fake, missing, falling, illness, or side effects of drugs. Everything is possible." He gritted his teeth and tried to threaten, "What if I report to the police? Why are you telling me all this?" He leisurely said, "It's not hard to give you an addiction. Do you think anyone would believe a drug addict talking nonsense about a tournament that does not exist?" Then he smiled kindly and pledged, "Do not worry, you'll die before you can do that," which made him mumble, "This is crazy." Min Seok returned to his seriousness. "That's the beauty of the hospital system, is not it?" He finally asked, "I'll repeat myself one more time. This is entirely your choice, Kang Sen-yu. Are you going to sign it?" It was a difficult choice for Sen-yu. Min Seok said most people take a few days to think about it. Suddenly, he quickly placed his hand on the contract and signed his name, which surprised him. Sen-yu's face was extremely sinister. "You have to keep your word." Min Seok, having achieved his desired goal, curved his mouth into a cunning smile. A nurse appeared behind Sen-yu. The strange atmosphere made him exclaim, "What the heck?" As expected, she injected him with anesthesia. Sen-yu pushed her hand away. "What is this?" But it was too late. His vision began to hallucinate, and his head was also dizzy from the drug. With blurry vision, he could hear Min Seok say, "Do not worry, it's just anesthesia to take you to the competition area." His eyes slowly closed. At the same time, his voice echoed in his head, "Kang Sen-yu, remember this. Your parents will only be taken care of as long as you participate in the tournament. You must make sure to win and solve all the problems." In a deep sleep, he slowly woke up drowsily. In his heart, he wondered, "What? Am I dead?" His tired eyes slowly opened. The first person he saw was a member of the medical team. Sen-yu wondered, "Where are they taking me?" But looking into the distance, he could see them slowly taking him away from the escape door, deep into a dark place. Sen-yu looked up and asked, "Where is this?" The man only replied, "Be quiet and keep moving. You will soon know where this is." Then, staring down at him, he said, "This hellhole." Sen-yu looked up groggily, asking, "Where is this?" The man replied, "Quiet and keep moving. You'll soon realize where you are." His face turned sinister. "This hellhole." One morning, the Hosen Corporation skyscraper. The person sitting at the desk was Che Yan-yu, the vice president of Hosen Corporation. He looked at the photo on his desk and asked, "Do you think this is possible?" Seeming a bit hesitant, using a high school student as a representative fighter, even if he did defeat Black Bear, Min Seok replied, "Of course, the vice president will laugh at this idea." Yan-yu gritted his teeth in frustration, "But why?" The other man adjusted his glasses, replying, "The more ridiculous it is, the better, if we want the vice president, who's obsessed with fighting arenas, to participate in this gamble. We have to make him look down on us." Yan-yu questioned, "You mean we can win against him with just this high schooler?" Min Se continued, "We tested Kang Sen-yu's bones after he used his move. The results were beyond imagination." His face showed a maniacal excitement, and he used his free hand to tussle his hair, looking very thrilled. This made Yan-yu surprised. "What do you mean?" He slowly opened his eyes. My head." The first thing he saw was a strange young man stepping on his head. "What? Who are they?" Realizing it was a foot, Sen-yu yelled. As soon as he sat up, a guard pointed a gun at him, yelling, "Back off." The young man immediately put up both his hands, taking a few steps back, laughing. Just kidding. Above them, a drone was observing them. It moved the camera closer to Sen-yu's face and reported, "Player fully confirmed awake," making him confused. "What the heck?" He looked around, wondering, "Where is this? What's with this uniform?" The drone announced, "The first random match is about to begin." Before he could even prepare himself, he was forced into battle. What? A series of instructions appeared. "The first match will determine the suitability of 200 fighters to proceed to the main arena." A machine slowly rose in front of Sen-yu. He looked at it in surprise. On the shelf was a syringe. "This is the stimulant test round. Each player will be randomly provided a stimulant from the representative, each of which will enhance a different physical ability. From now on, VIP guests watching the match can begin placing bets." A red light emitted from the camera lens. As soon as the match started, the opponent quickly grabbed the syringe. Senna, on the other hand, was still staring at the syringe, pondering, "I've already broken my promise not to fight, and my promise to graduate, but I cannot break the final promise to use stimulant." Suddenly, the guy yelled, startling him. The young man had injected the entire contents of the syringe, his blood beginning to drip onto the floor. His entire body was shaking violently and tensing up. He grinned a grotesque smile, the young man seemingly crazed, yelling, "Stimulant, a power." Sen-yu still did not understand what was going on. What the heck? Before he could even react, the young man quickly raised both legs and kicked at him, causing him to retreat. Sen-yu managed to dodge the kick, which was so powerful it could have shattered a wall. He slowly regained his balance by sliding on the floor, wondering, "What kind of monster is this?" The guy quickly stood firm on the ground. Sen-yu breathed heavily, thinking, a few seconds ago he was skinny and had no muscles. Did he just gain muscle mass? The camera inside the drone was still closely observing the young man. It reported, "Fighter in Chael has successfully increased his power." He smiled contentedly. "I hit the jackpot with the stimulant, how lucky." Then, maliciously looking at Sen-U, "It would be a shame if I did not win right now. I'm gonna beat all those who called me skinny and a loser." As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly leaped forward, then landed in front of Sen-U very quickly. He slowly approached, still giving Sen-U a challenging look. "Should I kill this punk for fun?" Sen-U simply punched him in the nose, but the man did not dodge, taking the full blow. A gust of air escaped as Sen-U pulled back. The man was unfazed, wiping his mouth, saying, "You trying to pick a fight with me, underestimating me? Are you?" Sen-U thought, "It seems his reaction speed has not improved. If I gradually close the distance and create an opening." As soon as he thought that, the young man, like a mad wolf, lunged towards him swiftly. Before Sen-U could react, the man hit him in the head, sending his body tumbling upside down. Sen-U bit his lip, his mouth full of blood, thinking, "Ook, even if I cannot keep up with this monster, I can still aim for his face." He immediately regained his balance by using one hand to support himself on the ground and then kicked back. The man just smiled grotesquely. A headbutt immediately sent Sen-U flying before he could launch his attack. His back was bent, and Sen-U coughed up a lot of blood. The man grabbed his leg, then raised his hand high, looking utterly delighted. "I do not even need to see how you move. All I need is this brute force." The monster then slammed Sen-Yu's body onto the ground, the floor tiles cracking from the impact. Blood poured from his head and face in a gruesome manner. The man continued to laugh wildly. "It's going to be fun, beating you up." After saying that, he squatted down, raising his hands to gain momentum. "Let's see how much I can crush a person." As he leaped up, dirt and rocks were sucked up due to the force. He charged through the air towards where Sen-Yu was lying, shouting, "Call out all those who look down on me." His face turned manic, because now I am the king here. With just one stomp, the man truly crushed Sen-Yu's chest, throwing dirt and rocks everywhere. He shouted loudly, "Call out all those who look down on me." Then his face became terrifying as he landed, "Because now I am the king here." Just one stomp from him seemed to crush Sen-Yu's chest. Dust and sand flew up from below, and Sen-Yu's body was pinned to the ground. He laughed savagely. "It's great, breaking someone's ribs." Sen-O, under the young man's foot, was half dead, unable to close his mouth. In the past, Min Sesi had said, "We tested Kang Sen-Yu's body after he was attacked by Black Bear, and the results were beyond imagination." He was so excited that he grabbed his hair. Yonu was a bit surprised again. Min Scafi immediately said, "The hardness of his bones is 10 times that of a normal person," which surprised Yona, 10 times? He smiled assertively. "Kang Sen-Yu's bone density is not human." That's right, Sen-O in the present still had not broken any ribs. Instead, he was able to rise up and grab the man's leg, shocking the young man. Before he could react, Sen-O had immediately escaped from his pinning hold, then flipped his body, kicking the man straight in the face. The man tried to grab his ankle again to subdue him. Sen-O was well aware of this move. He immediately pulled back his leg and rotated his body horizontally. The man reached but only grabbed air. He then retreated out of the man's attack range. The man was exhausted, while Sen-O was still full of energy, making the man pant, wondering how is he so strong without using the stimulant. Then, clenching his fist, unwilling to admit defeat, he thought, "No, it's just that his body has not adapted yet." Sen-O stood up straight with his head covered in blood, staring at the man. "This monster is slowing down. His stamina probably has not improved yet." Then he entered a defensive stance. "As long as I can keep dodging, I can still aim for his face. I need to punch faster instead of relying on strength." He moved up and down quickly, making it impossible for the man to predict his moves. As the young man began to reach out, Sen-Yu himself announced, "He's coming now." With a quick duck, he escaped the opponent's attack, and was even able to counterattack, hitting the man's face. When the man tried to grab him again, Sen-Yu quickly retreated before his hand could catch him, then struck again, hitting the man in the face. The man was immediately stunned by the blow. Sen-Yu took advantage of this opportunity and moved forward, then continued to hit him in the face again. The man was almost dazed for a few seconds. Sen-Yu seized the chance. "Alright, this is it." Then pulled his elbow back, starting to build up power. Just as he was about to unleash his attack, the man stood up powerfully and squeezed Sen-Yu's arm tightly, immobilizing him. The man mocked, "Got you? You were so excited that you did not realize I was letting you hit me?" Sen-Yu frowned, saying, "You think I was not letting you catch me?" making the man's ears itch. "What did you say?" Sen-Yu immediately asked a question. "Do you know why kangaroos hold their opponent's arms before delivering a powerful blow?" Which made the guy a little confused, when suddenly something came flying towards him. Sen-Yu used the guy's firm grip as a support to push his entire body up, and directly kicked him in the face. Because the young man could not pull his hand back, he could not defend. His face was instantly shattered. His teeth were all knocked out, blood splattering inside his mouth. He was quickly thrown backwards. The man slowly raised his head while blood kept spurting from his mouth, struggling to think, "I cannot get up anymore. What is going on?" He slammed his hand on the ground, lamenting, "Damn it, why has my body become like this? How could I lose to someone who did not even use stimulants?" When he looked up, the young man noticed something. It was the vial of drugs that Sen-O had not used. He then had an idea. That's right, one dose is still not enough for me. The man crawled to the shelf where the drugs were kept. Reaching out and grabbing a syringe inside, Sen Yu noticed it. He immediately rushed over the stimulant that was given to him. Just as he kicked the guy, it was also when the guy injected the power-up drug into his neck. The young man had quickly absorbed a large amount of stimulants, his eyes turning a terrifying red. The surveillance drone reported successful use of endurance stimulant. The man immediately jumped up, using his back to slam into Sen Yu's stomach. His monstrously strong body made him spit out blood, his eyes wide in pain. Sen Yu completely lost his strength. The man then lifted his entire body up, preparing to slam him onto the floor, yelling, "Who did you call a skinny piece of trash?" He immediately threw Sen Yu's body onto the ground, a surge of force immediately erupting from his throat. He kept spitting out blood because of the strong impact. The drone slowly moved closer to his body to observe the situation clearly, but the man pushed the drone away, still in a frenzy, yelling, "Get out of here." Then he slowly approached Sen Yu's head, saying, "It's not over yet." Then he tightened his hands around his neck, making it hard for Sen Yu to breathe. He kept muttering in his ear, "There's something I've wanted to do for a long time." Yeah, it's this feeling insects like you need to have their necks cut off to be satisfied. His eyes slowly widened. With each labored breath, in Sen Yu's head only one word echoed, "Father," then a splash of blood splattered. When a splatter of blood appeared under the tense red background, the young man suddenly rolled over and died. The remote-controlled drone observed carefully again, then definitively announced, "The match is over due to the death of one player." Yanwu, observing the camera through the computer screen, wondered, "Dead, what happened?" Minseok beside him explained, "Due to an overdose of stimulants." He then adjusted his glasses, saying the survival rate, when using two types of stimulants at the same time, is less than 5%. Minseok analyzed in detail, because he succeeded in using the strength-enhancing stimulant, but then injected another dose of endurance stimulant. So it's natural that he died. On the camera screen, you could see the team starting to move his body. Then he pondered, I have to admit that he's really lucky his opponent went to his death." Minseok continued to give his opinion. "Perhaps this is not entirely due to luck. His body is very unusual." He said, "Is not it just that his bones are hard to break? You know that this place is full of monsters even more terrifying than him." He said, "With the stimulants that we have, then increasing muscle, body parts, hormones, anything is possible, except for one thing. That's bone." Minseok pointed out, "There must be a special secret behind this." Yanwu, hearing this, said, "Let's see how effective it is when he enters the main round. So what's the next step?" Minseok replied, "Because he has passed the stimulant testing round, he will be treated urgently first, then we will let him meet the other monsters." On the camera, the image of the team was carrying Sen Yu away, in a dazed and tired state. He finished his words, "Those who have had their strength increased." Sen Yu's eyes at that time were still focused on the drone. He was taken into the treatment room of the fighting arena. Sen Yu was currently sitting on an examination machine with a medical staff. He stared blankly at the ground without saying anything. In his heart, he wondered he's really dead because Azumi, no, I just wanted to make him unconscious. That image made him think about it again and again. The feeling as if he had almost died flashed before his eyes, which made Sen Yu even more confused. "I'm the one who almost died." He then remembered the image of his father, bandaged all over with the respirator, and told himself, "Calm down." Sen Yu gritted his teeth angrily. "I'm the only one who can save my father and mother." When he raised his head, he saw the drone pointing its camera at him. It announced all players who have passed the match already. "Now, please move to the lobby." The medical staff immediately explained, "From now on, this machine will answer all your questions. As long as you stay with it, you will be fine. They are all equipped with deadly weapons, so do not do anything stupid." He slowly followed the drone and went towards a door. It led him out of the cave that Sen Yu was pushed into initially. He slowly followed, with a big question mark in his head. "Where is this place?" Sen Yu stepped to the cave gate, a cave underground. "They are making sure I do not escape." The drone pulled him forward. Sen Yu said to himself, "Damn it, I wish I could call and ask if my mother is okay. At least they said my father and mother would be safe as long as I'm here. I have to survive at any cost. It's not like the fights I imagined at all, outside. People think I'm a scary monster." He gritted his teeth. But here, even a random guy on the street is at that level. Thinking about the scene earlier made him feel chills. Sen Yu pondered, how much more terrifying are the monsters here? The drone spoke up, "Open the arena." He looked at it in surprise. The gate slowly opened, the mystical light inside radiated outwards. He slowly stepped inside, going from one surprise to another. The place was full of similar drones. They were all mobile cameras monitoring the players. Sen Yu felt amazed. It announced all players have entered. The game will begin with 124 participants. In front of him was indeed a tournament. There were many large people participating, and a crowd of remote-controlled drones. It added, "Instructions will be given briefly, so please focus on the projector screen." He looked at the monsters in front and muttered, "What the heck? These monsters?" They were at a completely different level from the guy he met in round one. His vigilance also gradually increased. Sen Yu pretended to blend in with the crowd, continued to move in silence and said to himself, if I want to avoid unnecessary injuries in those meaningless fights, then I should stay under the locator until the main match begins. Suddenly a big guy stood behind him, challenging, hey high schooler kid, how did you get here? Let's big brother play with you for a bit. In his heart, he felt uncomfortable. Damn it, this uniform attracts too much attention. Start the instructions already. As he continued to walk past two men, he could hear them talking, haha, I heard that the high schooler got here because his opponent overdosed on stimulants. The other guy was a bit surprised and interested. Wait, that means he has not used stimulants yet. He replied, wearing that uniform, it must be those rich people who want to see others suffer. The other man suggested, I'm bored, should we play with that kid a little? But he hastily said, hey, bow your head and walk. It seems someone else is targeting him, which surprised the other guy. Suddenly, there was a voice behind him, hey, Sun Yu slightly glanced over. Without turning around, he could feel that it was the guy who he had met in the lobby earlier. He kept following him and intentionally causing trouble. When someone asks you if you want to play, you have to answer, which made him curse, damn it. He grabbed his head and said, if you do not answer, then I'll have to kill you. Xiaowen remained silent, muttering in his heart, to survive with this bunch of crazy people. Then, gritting his teeth, frowning and turning around to prepare to face him, I need to be crazier than them. As he prepared to raise his fist and turn around, he was also ready to raise his hand. He was silent and thought, to deal with this crazy bunch. He frowned and gritted his teeth, I need to be crazier than them. As Senyu turned around with the intention to fight back, the man also quickly raised his large hand. Suddenly, someone blocked his wrist. Senyu was somewhat surprised. A muscular man was shielding him, which made the man ask, what's this? He said stop. He was not happy and grabbed the man's arm, then squeezed it tightly until the muscle fibers started to tense up, and grinned maliciously, what now? Despite his hand being burned from the heat, he calmly said, it's just a high school student. Then he pulled his hand back, which had burn marks from the friction. He said, you want to fight me with just one stimulant-pumped hand? Then he looked at him, to save that kid, which made Senyu feel belittled. He gritted his teeth, unable to endure the humiliation. I have to pretend I do not care. It's better than getting hurt for no reason. He started raising his fist. Then come here and die for this high schooler. The man on this side also immediately raised his fist to meet him. Senino at the same time turned and shouted to encourage the older man, damn it, I cannot just stand by. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out, blood splattering everywhere, shocking him. The drone with the action camera had a gun after all, and it fired until the barrel was hot. The man also took multiple shots to the head and fell down dead. The drone spoke, it's time for the briefing. Anyone who causes conflict outside of a match will be shot dead immediately. On the other side, other drones were also pointing their guns at the corpse. This made him even more shocked. Damn it, do they see human lives as nothing? Who can survive in here? Suddenly there was another sound. A large screen appeared in midair in the cave, showing the image of the creator, who spoke to everyone. Congratulations to all of you for surviving the qualifiers. The stimulant test round just now was a simple one. Only those who survived would not be eliminated. But from now on, anyone can be eliminated in any round, and being eliminated means you will be stripped of the right to compete in later rounds. Regardless of that, the reason the fighters are participating in this tournament is for the prize of 10 billion won. Upon hearing the hefty prize, they cheered wildly. He could only stand there and watch, completely detached from the money. All he about was getting treatment for his father. With that money, his family could live like humans. He thought about it and clenched his fist. The creator continued, unfortunately, only one person can receive this prize, but do not be sad, because if you make it to the top 16 and survive, that fighter will receive 5% of the VIP customers' bets. He then showed them the number of VIP customers participating. One guy excitedly clenched his fist, determined the prize money and the bets are all mine. He continued to instruct, each player will have their own channel, each person will be assigned a guidance machine which is also a camera. He turned his gaze to the drone hovering beside him. They are scattered everywhere, and they are also live recording devices. VIP customers will follow the channels of the players they think will win and achieve. He summarized, in short, the more attention you get from VIP customers, the more money you will get, so attract as much viewership as possible to bring in a fortune. Now each person will be provided with a private room to stay in until the game ends. You can freely choose your roommates. Doors from empty rooms slowly opened. He concluded, any further questions will be answered by the guidance machine. Now move out. Two of them were constantly talking to each other. If I want to attract the attention of VIP customers, then I will stay with the strong ones and try to perform some moves. Staying with that high school kid will not make us any money. Senyu seemed to have no one to pair up with. Damn it, even finding a room is difficult. But the man from earlier quickly approached him. He wrapped his arm around Senyu's shoulder and said, do not worry too much, kid. Senyu stared blankly at him. He clarified, I'll make sure you're safe until the official match begins. He looked at the man's trembling arm with burned scars. But then he suddenly noticed a person with blonde hair. He briefly looked at his appearance and said, no way, could it be? But the man's words quickly interrupted his thoughts. It seems that room over there does not have any fighting. Go check it out. Senyu was sweating, a bit worried. He got hurt because of me, and now he wants to share a room with someone that everyone is avoiding. He kept watching the man's back. I do not know what his motives are, but no matter what room I choose, danger is always lurking everywhere. When he saw that Sen-O was not moving, he turned around and asked, "Why are you still standing there?" Senyu stammered, let's go. Seeing them team up and walk to their room together, the others gossip, wow, what a group, their view count is guaranteed to hit rock bottom. They kept rambling from beginning to end of the session. That's why I chose the room next to the person with the potential of highest view count. Staying in the same room is obviously very dangerous, but at least it will give me more screen time on a popular channel. Being with those muscular guys with high views is a given. Inside that room, it was like a dark hole. Just like its dangerous look, those inside were also large and imposing, and especially dangerous. A boy about the age of a minor walked in, surprising them. He closed the door behind him. He then walked towards them and said, "That spot looks good." They felt weird. Until he ordered, "Move aside," they were immediately shocked by his audacity. One guy stood up, threatening, "The camera has not even turned on yet, and you've already closed the door." He then raised his hand high to swing, laughing. "Are you craving death that much?" Before he could act, the young man immediately used 2 fingers and darted forward, piercing the man's neck vein, causing blood to gush out. The large man immediately went dizzy, then fell down with a twisted neck, scaring the 2 others. He spoke up anyone else. They were like timid rabbits, completely silent. Since no one dared to argue, he said, "Good, keep quiet." Then he licked the blood still on his fingers. "The person I want to fight is someone else." He was Han Min-soo, only 19 years old, skilled in harness. They were so scared that they could not utter a word. He said, "It's best to just stay quiet," then cunningly licked the blood on his finger. "The person I want to fight is someone else." The next morning, inside a 4-wheeled car in motion. Inside, Yeon-yu and Min Safi were driving. Min Suf reported, "There's intelligence that the vice president will team up with Choi Ma-shun, the former champion of the previous season again." Yeon-yu replied, "Damn it, of course. Who else could he team up with? But our other option is a high school student." Min Sikov then said, "If Kang Sen-yu can make it to the top 16, he will undergo a second round of stimulant testing." He then proudly boasted, "With his body, it's very likely that the stimulant will have the strongest effect. His bones are already 10 times harder than normal people." Min Suxi's eyes suddenly widened strangely. If he gets another stimulant, a record-breaking monster will be born. Yeon-yu clicked his tongue at the problem of fighting over strong people. Tesk, "Well, he's on our side anyway. I'm worried that others will snatch him." Min Sikosi confidently replied, "I do not think we need to worry about that right now." He then explained the 5-person room that Kang Sen-yu is in has the 5 lowest viewerships in the stimulant test round. This made Yeon-yu even more surprised. The car drove across the bridge. After the man led Sen-yu to his team room, he explained some basic things. "It seems difficult to increase views here. The audience will only focus on the fighters they think will win. And this, one of them is a woman. Her chances of winning are not highly anticipated. The person sitting over there is a female fighter. She is Amanda Groch, 23 years old, Kapara and proficient in jiu-jitsu." He then turned his gaze to a short, adult man. "That guy is the smallest in the tournament. The blonde-haired boy is Kim Min-ho, 25 years old, skilled in boxing." He introduced the last one, a young man. "The last one is, he constantly tries to touch his elbow with his tongue, always muttering like a brain-dead person. Elbow, he's Menon, 28 years old." Menon was still in an awkward position trying to touch his elbow with his tongue, saying loudly, help me, as Sen-U was speechless. Here, drones began to flood their room. The man looked at the camera light that was shining, and said, "The guidance machine has started recording, but if you want to make money, you have to attract views." As soon as he said that, he raised his hand, then he jumped forward, then suddenly landed, supporting the weight of his entire body with one hand, shocking Sen-Yu speechless. He then began lowering his body like a daily exercise. 1, 2, 1, 2. All of this was done under Sen-Yu's astonished gaze. Sen-Yu scratched his head, seemingly judging. This does not seem promising. When he looked at the woman, she had stood up. She suddenly put out a finger, pointing it towards the ground, then pierced the tip of her finger into the floor, leaving Sen-Yu in awe. She started to retract her legs, lifting off the ground. Then she lifted her entire body with only one finger, even more impressive than the old man on this side. He widened his eyes, wondering, lifting her entire body with one finger, without momentum. They kept doing 1, 2, 1, 2 while Sen-Yu still did not understand what was going on. He stammered, "Wait." Minho on this side stood in a ready stance. He confidently said, "Only fools show off their strength," making Sen-Yu very curious. What he demonstrated was his speed. With just one dash, he reached the end of the room. Then, with a flash, he returned to his original position, leaving Sen-Yu stunned. Minho did not stop there. He kept repeating the action, making Sen-Yu admire him. How is he so fast? Looking to the other side, Menon, like a mentally disabled person, was constantly muttering while his throat was nearly choked. "Okay, I can reach it. I'm the best." Sen-Yu was sweating buckets looking at him. In this room, there was every kind of weirdo, from people showing off their strength to sprinters, and also eccentric view-chasing weirdos like Menon. Sen Yu felt regretful about his choice. He did not know what the goals of these people were. He only knew that he was in a tight spot. What is this? It looks great, but looking at this, I seem like an idiot. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. On the TV, a match bracket appeared. The 124 people had been divided into rounds. He looked up at the character chart and was a bit surprised. The opponent ranked above him was Kai. Sen Yu would be fighting against the fighter Kai this time. At the company in the high-rise building, there were two familiar figures again. Yanwu, after getting the answer, asked, "Is it okay?" Minseok replied, he has never lost a match as a Lethwei fighter. He turned around curiously, Lethwei. He replied, it's a martial art that has some similarities to Muji Thai, however, the difference is that it's more violent and has a greater killing power. Yanwu asked, is not Muay Thai already one of the dangerous martial arts that allows elbows and knees? Minseok replied, the scope of what's allowed in Lethwei is even wider. Then he listed the advantages. Not only do they fight without gloves, but they are also allowed to use headbutts. If they attack the opponent's face or head with their forehead, the strongest bone in the human body will create a fatal wound, which is why tournaments prohibit this martial art. Then he said, but the most dangerous part of Lethwei is somewhere else, which made him curious. Minseok explained, it also allows attacks on the back of the opponent's neck and spine. Getting hit by these attacks will either leave you in a vegetative state or kill you. That's why this martial art is banned from use. Kai has the most experience in fighting arenas among all the participants. Besides his professional career, he is also recruited by other organizations to fight. He heard a specific phrase, organizations. He replied, it seems that fighting in the circle is not enough to satisfy him. He started looking for notorious street fighters to fight, so he attracted the attention of organizations. Yanwu asked directly, does Kang Sen-yu have a chance of winning against him? He agreed, I'm also curious about that, which made him a little surprised. What? Minseok reasoned, until now, Kang Sen-yu has only fought with debt collectors and people like Black Bear who have not been properly trained in martial arts. The person he will be fighting with this time is Kai, 28 years old, from Lethwei. He also replied, I'm also curious about that, which made him a little surprised. What? Minseok adjusted his glasses and said, Kang Sen-yu has only fought with debt collectors and the likes of Black Bear, who have never been trained in martial arts. The person Sen-yu is about to face is Kai, 28 years old, from Lethwei. At the fighting arena, in the 5-person room, the examination machine slowly opened, and a mist started to spread. He sat up after the examination and wondered, phew, how long have I been sleeping? Sen-yu was a little surprised. What is this? Why does my body suddenly feel so light? He rotated his wrist a few times, then wondered, no, it's not just light, right? That's right, this feeling has appeared before. Then he looked at his hands. Then he muttered, the events that have happened when I woke up after fighting with that guy, Black Bear. Then he kept thinking about how he was haunted by that strange feeling. I've had the same kind of feeling. He looked back at his body as if he had become stronger. From behind the examination machine, the uncle who was with him also appeared from his own examination. When he saw him, he was startled. But the uncle was still calm. What's there to be surprised about? He smiled, touched his healed arm, and said, if your muscles are pushed to their limit and then recover without any permanent damage, then naturally they will become stronger than before. Then he assured, I'm sure you've never done this before. He could only blankly confirm in his heart, that's right, when I fought Black Bear, I reached my limit without even realizing it. Then he said, but your recovery speed is also unusually fast, do not you think, or did you inject some kind of recovery stimulant? He simply answered, more importantly, I've been wondering about something since yesterday, which made him listen. Senno repeated what happened at the time. Why did you risk your life to protect me? He just silently looked at the ground. Well, the thing is... Then he answered, you remind me of my son, which made him a little confused. He added, if I were a better father, my son would not have had so many debts with loan sharks. He understood somewhat, so you are here because... He replied, that's right, to make up for my mistakes, I have to pay off all that debt. He also expressed, but when I see you alone, I cannot help but think of the son that I ruined and abandoned. I cannot just stand still and watch. Sen-yu became serious again, warning, stop wasting time, which made him a little surprised. Then he gritted his teeth, saying, you need to live to take care of your son. If you die, nothing will change. He dared to say such a straightforward thing. The uncle actually believed in that idea. He even locked his neck and said, if you dare to say that, then I will swallow you, which made Sen-yu stagger. No, that's not what I meant. Suddenly, a noise came from afar, how ridiculous, attracting the attention of both of them. It was men lamenting at the TV, why am I not in the main area? Then he caused trouble with the drone. To the people who were watching, damn it, I am the one who can touch my elbow with my tongue. He continued to throw a tantrum and try to catch the drone. Although he failed many times, he still failed this time. Going back to where the two of them were talking, he added, I heard that the match with the most views will be in the main area, and the rest will be in the stimulant area. Then he adjusted his glasses and said, but there is one thing, all of us, except for Menon. They looked at the man who was sticking out his tongue like a lizard, trying to catch the drone and saying, if we're in the main area, it means that our opponents will be the most outstanding monsters. He was confused by this. Is not that a good thing? It surprised him. Good, what are you talking about? He slightly curved his lips, looking interested in a strong opponent. That's an opportunity to attract all the VIPs. He was stunned at his somewhat interested expression and said, that you're really crazy. Menon chimed in arbitrarily. The main area not only attracts views. He immediately flinched back. What? He continued to wear a grotesque smile, but also where 16 VIPs will appear, those superpowers that are ruling the world. Senyu thought, that means the scout will come too. I want to hear news about my mother. The sky darkened outside a warehouse where 3 cars parked. They stood before a container full of coal, burning with flames. Yanwu gritted his teeth and wondered, I thought we were going to the main area. What is this dirty place? Minseok explained, the location of the fighting arena is a secret that only the organizers know, so they must want to meet us in some hidden place. He was glued to his tablet, but it seems that someone outside of us has been watching Kang Sen Yu's channel. He asked unhappily, why is that suddenly happening? Is someone following us? Suddenly, there was a woman's voice from the other side. It seems like someone has misunderstood. The two of them looked up. It was Chasunjian, 19 years old, the youngest young lady of the Hosen Corporation. She smiled and said, it's just that I'm interested in the student named Kang Sun-u, that's all. Yanwu did not like her either. I just got fired from the company not long ago. Why do you keep following me like a mouse? Minsik then said, it seems that this young lady is interested in the butt, which he disagreed with and interrupted. Who's a young lady? She's just a bastard child. She slowly walked down, still relaxed, and said, why so harsh? I dropped out of school to help the company with you too. Then she added, thanks to them, I found out about this interesting place, so I guess I'm very grateful. He was suspicious and said, no matter what you're planning, you better be quiet and leave. Suddenly, a car drove straight into the place. Another camera-equipped drone flew in. It, along with the car and the entourage, escorted them. Now, you will be guided to the main area. A drone came closer. It announced, now we will guide you to the arena. Behind it was the 4-wheeled car and the entourage. In the dark, there was a voice echoing, take off her blindfold. Sunjian slowly opened her blindfold. What she saw was a large transparent window. Sunjian was blinded by the light. What is this? Below her was the arena, large and clean. The bodyguard replied, below is the arena. The director has arrived in one of the 16 VIP rooms. Sunjian wondered, so it's time. She curved her lips. This playground will be tough. In the room on this side, Yanwu sat on a chair, praising right, this place has quite a large scale. Minseok was glued to his tablet. According to the statistics, after the match here ends, the match in room 10 where Kang Sen Yu is fighting will begin. Suddenly, it was as if there was a landslide from below, which made Yanwu jump. Below was Minsu defeating a large man, slamming him into the wall until it cracked. Yanwu was surprised to see him. What the heck? Minseok replied, it's Hen Minsu, a classmate of the same age as Kang Sen Yu. He turned surprised, still a high schooler. Minseok answered, he dropped out of school. It's unbelievable that that guy has 2 monsters like this. Yanwu was startled. Huh. Minseok added that Hen Minsu. He went to the same school as Kang Seno, so he's also Sen Yu's classmate. The drone moved in to observe, then reported the match between rooms 9 and 20 has ended. The winner's Han Minsu. Next up is the match between rooms 10 and 3. Inviting the contestants to enter as the door opened, Sen Yu and his teammates stepped in. They observed the battleground with large cracks and became surprised. The old man spoke, it looks like this match will be intense. The drone announced, the contestants who are not currently in the arena from room 10 will wait here. The first one to step forward was Minho. He breathed a sigh of relief. The drone added, the contestants who have completed their matches are to leave the arena. Minsu also walked to the door to exit. Suddenly he raised his hand and flicked his hair. Minho took note of that. The old man on this side said, I hope Kim Minho will be comfortable and not stressed. Suddenly something flashed across Sen Yu's eyes, piercing the wall next to him, making Sen Yu's eyes widen in surprise. He gritted his teeth looking over, where did that rock come from? Minho on this side was still firmly looking at Minsu. His sharp eyes had caught that scene. I saw it. The guy was pretending to flick his hair. He was the one who threw the rock, with a speed no one could detect. It seemed that Minsu had some connection with him. Minho was still thinking, I cannot believe how much damage a rock can do with that speed. Suddenly Minsu spoke, you, startling Minho, then slowly looking over and saying, you must be arrogant for being here. Minho turned and answered, not really. Then Minsu challenged, go ahead and be confident. You bastard, startling him. What? Minsu frowned at Minho like he was looking at his prey, you'll pay the price. He immediately retreated quickly, putting up both hands to protect his face, ready to fight. Making everyone surprised, do those two want to fight? Amanda spoke up, nothing happens for no reason, startling Sen Yu and the old man, She added, with those who are skilled, they can feel the slightest bit of killing intent. Facing Minho, Minsu simply walked past him. As if nothing had happened, he walked straight out the main door, making Minho feel lost. Huh. He gritted his teeth. Is he that strong, making me be wary right away? That bastard looks like he wants to attack and kill me. He also had a bad feeling about him. Minsu was no different than a monster who would attack him. He was left to say, alright, I understand a few things about him now, but he is so strong, how am I going to defeat him? Suddenly, another guy spoke up. Where are you looking? Startling Minho. The guy was the wrestler Pai Su, with a large and imposing physique. In the room behind him was the room of director Go Wuxian, who was judging while holding a glass of wine. Fighting like that is terrible. Why did you choose people like this to compete? His butler said, although they are terrible if the wrestler can grab them, their opponents are sure to die. Sir, when they are grabbed, the opponent will be crushed to death. Their lock techniques are too good. That is why many people in freestyle martial arts are former wrestlers. Sir, physical fitness is quite important in this type of mixed martial arts tournament. They have strength and endurance that is quite flexible. So wrestlers are a formidable opponent in freestyle competitions. No one can escape if they pin their entire body on the opponent. The director continued, and the difference in weight will help him defeat his opponent more easily. It can be easily compared with the naked eye. Yaisu has well-defined muscles, while Minho has nothing. The drone spoke up, contestants, prepare yourselves. It announced the match between Kim Minho and Pai Yaisu begins. The man quickly spread his arms wide into a wrestling stance. Seeing Minho put his hands out in a boxing stance, he said disdainfully, a boxing stance. Let's see how long you can keep that up. Then he took the initiative to attack. Your punches are useless against me. But before he could do anything, he was punched in the eye, blood splattering everywhere. He retreated in pain, already injured before the middle of the match. He screamed with a bloody and empty eye socket, my eye. Minho scoffed, be so careless, you idiot. His middle finger was slightly offset like a natural blade of his body. He was stunned with tension, trying to calm down. I still have one eye. I need to calm down. Not giving him any time to rest, he moved in quickly, with a dynamic back and forth rhythm. He widened his eyes, trying to catch Minho's rhythm. He's moving too fast. He's taking advantage of my injured eye to avoid my vision. Minho was moving non-stop, then aimed at his right side and attacked, then dealt Yaisu a blow right in the center of his face. Yaisu yelled angrily, wildly reaching his hands out, you bastard. Minho quickly ducked and escaped his attack range, immediately followed up with more blows to the vital points of his body, making him constantly dizzy and unable to stand straight. I cannot see anything now. Then Yaisu's remaining eye slowly became blurrier, and he could feel his blood continuously spraying out. The director widened his eyes in surprise. Did the match end that fast? Amanda spoke up again, no, surprising both of them. She said that Pai Su has already caught the rhythm of Kim Minho's movements, that they had not noticed this point, yet she did. Until the next blow that Minho delivered, he immediately grasped his rhythm and blocked it, without even using his eyes. Minho was frozen in place. He felt that all directions were covered by the wrestler. Picturing this, he immediately retreated backward. Frowning, he muttered, cannot I always defeat him? It's like he is covering every angle. How can that be? He was now holding his right eye. Then, panning, he said, now I'm used to your movements. His skin was covered with goosebumps. I feel my body is gradually tensing up and excited. Suddenly, his entire body seemed to grow larger, and his muscles tensed up. This is the feeling I need. Finally, Yaisu closed both eyes, surprising Minho. He closed his eyes. He was a bit suspicious, like this. Is he scheming something? He continued with his quick movements, then punched forward, shouting, die. Before he could touch his face, Yaisu had already caught his fist. Wuxian's eyes widened in surprise. Even Minho's teammates were caught off guard. He tensed up. I've been caught. Quick, move to the left. As Minho intended to continue moving sideways as before, Yaisu suddenly stretched out his arm to the exact position he intended to move. Then, Minho was lifted up as light as a feather. He was completely lifted into the air by Yaisu's grip. Then he slammed Minho's body on the ground, creating a large crack in the ground. The old man widened his eyes in shock, shouting, he got him. Wuxian was excited, feeling interested. Even with an injured eye, his reflexes are faster than before. The butler said, it seems that guy has awakened his fighting instincts. Minho was spitting up blood, and his mouth would not close. He was surrounded by a shock. He looked up at Minho, a sinister smile on his bloodied face. I thank you for injuring my eye. Because of that, I was able to awaken my fighting instincts. Not stopping there, Minho continued to raise his hand, quickly striking the left side of his eye. Instantly, his remaining eye exploded, and blood sprayed out profusely, causing an immediate surge of pain. The man clutched his punctured eye, and staggered backwards in a daze. Wuxian was surprised and shouted, if he loses his other eye now, will he still be able to fight? The man lay down on the arena floor cursing loudly. You bastard, blood still gushing from his eye. He laughed and said, that kid is good at acting. I thought he was knocked out, but he managed to make that guy lose one eye. The manager on this side said, he cannot fight anymore. Wuxian, not convinced, asked, was that an unconscious punch? But Minho was now lying motionless on the ground. Amanda said, if he does not wake up, which made them look over in surprise again. Amanda sure then he will die. At this time, Wai Su was able to stand up, but he no longer had any vision, while Minho was still lying motionless there. Amanda said he has to wake up quickly. Then she said frankly, before Pai Su finds Kim Min-ho without needing 2 eyes. At this time, Minho was still lying motionless below, while the man was standing with his 2 missing eyes. Isu said trembling, damn it, I really cannot see anything now. But suddenly a strange feeling arose in his body, as if a sense had awakened. Everything around him was black, but he could imagine where he was standing. Yaisi looked at his palm feeling strange. What the heck? His sense of smell became sharp, the smell of the floor and sand. His hearing went deeper, his opponent's breath. The sense of pressure due to his body's touch became stronger. Even the slightest pressure difference could be clearly felt through his skin. I can even see behind me now. Isu started to smile wickedly, the feeling of overflowing power. What is this surge of power and madness? Then he laughed loudly, very happily. I thought it was not an explosion of power, so I was very disappointed. But now I realize that this is the best thing, and it's getting stronger. Yaisu, with his 2 bloody eye sockets, said eerily, all right, as a way to thank the one who made me like this, then began to approach where Min-ho was lying. I promise I will give you the most complete rest. He immediately jumped high above. In Min-ho's consciousness, he was still clearly aware. No, again as if being submerged under the ocean. My body is not listening to me. Suddenly there was a voice calling from the abyss, brother. It seemed like Min-ho's old memories were rushing back, about revenge for his family. The voice echoed again, you must find that dog. From that moment, he decided to take revenge for his brother. A piece of memory reappeared. It was the organization's person sending an invitation. If you want to find the one who killed your brother, then come to this place. With that red card, I must find it. The final voice sounded, brother, help me. At this moment, Yaisu immediately jumped down at Minho's position, with his elbow aiming right at his face. The man's movement suddenly slowed down before Minho's eyes. He was surprised, wondering in his heart, what is this? Why is he moving so slowly? He remembered, no, this is not slow movement. It's just that I've become too fast. Immediately, where the man's elbow landed was completely on the arena floor. He quickly jumped up and back, escaping danger. They said in unison, what suddenly happened? Yaisu was still surprised. What? How did you escape from when? He breathed tiredly after the last move, then said, while you were rambling about feeling this and that, I had a good rest and now I'm full of energy. The man gritted his teeth. That guy was not talking nonsense. He has become faster than before. He immediately returned to his defensive stance, said, all right, let's see if you can keep up now. Minho started to speak. First, step 1. The man seemed ready to block the attack. Come here. Minho immediately rushed over, aiming at his stomach. With the speed of light, the man was able to block it, even though he no longer had vision, which made Minho very surprised. He blocked my punch. Is he lucky? He attacked again, then another one, but it was easily pushed aside. Minho gritted his teeth, damn it, then add another step and continued to punch. But this time, the man dodged to the side, escaping his punch, which made Minho grit his teeth and say loudly, how did you do that? The man swung his hand instead. He immediately dodged and retreated. Minho could not believe it, wondering, how can he keep up with my speed? The man was certain of his victory. I can feel it, from the heartbeat to every movement of that kid. Now to me, he shouted loudly in his heart. There are no starting points. The senses are enhanced to the extreme when losing vision. Minho was a little worried, muttering as expected, with moderate speed there's no hope, right now even if it's risky. I can only go deeper at maximum speed. He crouched down to gain momentum, then jumped to where the man was like a ray of light. He attacked with a combination of momentum, my special move, light straight, but suddenly Minho stopped. In his mind, Yaisu snapped his neck. Because of the illusion, Minho automatically fell to the ground, which made the man a little confused, then looked at him and asked, why did you attack me and then fall by yourself? Minho slowly stood up in fear, then felt his neck, worried, what is this? Did it do nothing? I clearly broke his neck, damn it, I'm seeing illusions again. The man grinned and said, if I had attacked relentlessly, I would have broken your neck too, but you fell down and escaped death, you're lucky kid. The man on this side looked at the match and said, damn it, Kim Min-ho's speed has absolutely no effect on him. It's like he can predict every attack. But how? Suddenly, Minho's next move surprised him. He was performing a jump and retreat with speed. He widened his eyes in surprise. What is that? Suddenly performing only normal footwork? Is he out of strength to use speed? Minho kept moving, going in and out to deceive the man. He kept muttering in worry, if he only attacks with normal speed like that, how can he win? Minho finally launched an attack. It was also when he yelled, stop, you'll lose your life. But this time, Minho's attack was really effective. He was able to hit the man's face without being blocked. When the man intended to grab it, Minho immediately pulled back. This made him astonished. What is that? He already hit his attack. Then Minho ran very quickly in a circle, as if he was surrounding the man like iron cage. Minho continued to move, not letting Yaisu grasp his next move. He was tired, but he was still going all out. He pressed his hand to his head, feeling worried. Why is he doing that? Even the strength to maintain speed is not there. If he uses those excessive fake moves like that, what will he attack with? But the effort he put in was not wasted. Minho just hit the man in the face again. He was stunned another attack. When Isu completely lost his balance and was disoriented, he immediately took advantage of this point and struck the man's face multiple times. Blood kept spurting out with each strike. Minho moved quickly again so that the opponent would not be able to grasp the direction. He was once again incredulous. The attack is working. Why use excessive fake moves like that? Amanda spoke up and explained, it's precisely because of those fake moves that the attack is effective, which made him a little surprised. What? Minho immediately punched the man's face again, causing Isu to completely lose his balance. Amanda explained, because the opponent thinks that he has lost his vision, he unconsciously does not use fake moves, and attacking directly is the problem. He saw the trick and had a speculation, so that means that he thinks the opponent can still see and is deceiving him. Amanda replied, no, more than that. He said, what? Amanda carefully observed Kim Minho is deceiving his opponent's senses, although it's not hard to read simple attacks with his senses, but because he just injected a sensory stimulant, he's not used to it yet. If you encounter fake moves at the level of Kim Minho, your mind will be completely confused. Kim Minho is causing that confusion for Isu. In such a short period of time, to be able to grasp how much the opponent can dictate about his movements, Kim Minho is even more terrifying than I imagined. He kept repeating those smooth movements, constantly changing the direction of the attack. Minho lowered himself, then immediately struck a blow directly up on Isu's chin, causing his lips and teeth to be pressed together. Wu Xian, not convinced, asked loudly, what is going on? Are you telling me that my opponent failed in front of a useless guy like that? The manager corrected, absolutely not, which made him stop. What? The butler skillfully said after observing the situation, look at his face. Does he look like a loser? The man started to grin, then shouted, I got you. Then he hugged Minho's body, then lifted him up, yelling madly, this is my victory. Then he flipped him backward. Minho was in unimaginable pain. His head was immediately smashed straight into the arena floor, causing it to explode. Everyone was surprised by the result. Even the butler and Wu Xian were caught off guard. The imaginary images that he had created for himself gradually disappeared, leaving him with a feeling of disappointment. Isu self-destructed, unable to believe it. He stammered, what? I clearly grabbed him. Minho was still standing and watching him slam his head on the ground. Senyu seemed surprised. Why did Isu throw himself like that? Amanda said, because Kim Minho attacked Isu's brain. He was surprised, brain. She replied, because Kim Minho kept attacking Isu's brain. Each time it was hit, his brain would shake. If the shocks continue, before the brain stabilizes, even if he could feel, it would be hard to maintain his sharpness. In that way, Kim Minho created a short time window where Isu's senses would fail, making him think he had grabbed the opponent, even though he had not actually touched him. Senyu did not expect that he also had that kind of strategy. Damn it, how can he? Could it be he's stronger than me? Isu's entire body was trembling. He seemed unable to stand, muttering that guy did not even have stamina-enhancing drugs. Could his senses really be better than mine? This is really unfair. In his last thought, he also collapsed to the ground. The drone slowly moved closer to inspect. It pointed the camera at his face to check his condition. Then reported, Isu is no longer able to fight. The winner of this match is Kim Minho. He then breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone supported Minho, nice one. And old Wu Xian was furious, damn it. Minho collapsed, raising his head and panting heavily. In his heart, he secretly called out, brother. Upstairs in another room, it was Sung Yun's room. She watched the whole match and assessed, this is not a human fight. I did not expect you guys to go crazy over this. The bodyguard beside her spoke, it's not just a fight. She was surprised. He said, this is a place where all the corporations' wishes can be fulfilled, from money to power and maintaining authority. Even murders that do not leave a trace, and undetectable hallucinogens in the tests, for corporations that no longer feel pleasure anywhere else. This is the only paradise. That is why the pride of the Vips here is so incredible. She answered, I think I understand why third brother wants to defeat first brother here so much. The bodyguard replied, he must have been very careful in choosing his fighter. Moreover, his fighter is known to be very familiar with this place and extremely talented. Sung Yan added, so we also have to be very active. We'll know the extent of his talent. In the next round, the next match was soon set up. The main character of the match would be Sen Yu. Sung Yan said with confidence his level of talent. We will find out in the next round. The next round is Sen Yu's stage. Inside the monitoring room, sitting in front of the computer replaying the recording, a man entered the office, reporting, Director, 16 VIPs, all have arrived at the hospital. The director turned around, all 100% present. It seems we will have some achievements this year. Are there any results yet? He presented, for the first time, we have discovered the secondary stimulation of the sense-enhancing drug and confirmed that the short-term side effect index has decreased by 20%. But the regeneration effect that we were aiming for has not appeared in any of the drugs yet. The director was a little disappointed and asked, so it's still a failure? He replied, not like that. The time for the drug to take full effect is just beginning now. We'll have the results soon. Then, looking back at the report on the tablet, moreover, this is also the first time the effect of the drug has appeared. I think the test results can provide some hints about the regenerative effect. The director immediately predicted, are you talking about the skin-enhancing effect? Is that so? When can we confirm it? He answered soon. The fighter of the next round on the main arena is a pretty strong fighter, a monster lying in the waiting room, with a large body and red hair. Senyu on this side was stretching, preparing for his match. The old man said, if it's too hard, just fall down. He answered, there's no way that's going to happen. If it does, I'll make sure it does not. He seemed surprised and asked, are not you scared? Why do not you seem stressed at all? Senyu confidently said, not all, not even a bit, startling the old man. Then he slumped his shoulders. He's really crazy. The drone flew towards the group. It reported fighter Kang Senyu is now entering the arena. He immediately walked through the door leading to the arena. While walking down to the deciding place, he thought, since when have I not felt fear anymore? Then a memory echoed in his mind. When I was young, I had so many accidents that made people think deeply. Even if I was about to die, it was not anything strange. I was always unharmed as usual. Back then, Senyu cried, calling out, Mom. At first, I cried loudly because of the surprise. But after going through those years, no matter what danger I had to face, I became emotionless. Many people felt uncomfortable with that emotionlessness. But no matter what they did, they could not see even a hint of fear in me. They hit him in the head with a stick, but the stick shattered into pieces. His head was bleeding, but he did not feel anything. And conversely, they were more afraid of me. The only thing that I'm worried about now is the safety of my family, not the opponent in front of me. Kai appeared quickly in the arena. The two of them faced each other, with two drones recording around them. Yana, sitting inside the waiting room, saw him enter the arena and started talking. It's starting now. What kind of skill does Kai have? Minsek answered, this is the skin-enhancing drug, which is also the first time I've seen it, making him a bit curious. Skin, does it help in combat? Minskeg said, it is not only helpful but also very influential. The opponent before him had their skin and muscles completely torn off. He was confused. The skin was enhanced, but why was the opponent's skin torn? Minsif explained, the skin has been enhanced to the point that normal people cannot damage it, because it's so rough and sturdy. Just touching it can damage the opponent's skin. I heard they even tore their muscles. There have been cases like that before. VIPs are usually very interested in fighters to place their bets. He became annoyed. Hayes, damn it, where should we bet? I used to train Lethway to enhance my skin, so would choosing Kang Senyu instead of Kai be suitable? He looked at the tablet. The betting results for both of them are leaning towards Kai. It was quite obvious. Indeed, only the money bet on Kai is increasing, and for Kang Senyu, it is 0. Suddenly, Minsek stopped. He reported in surprise, someone placed a bet on Kang Senyu before we did, even as much as 100 million won, making Yanu feel absurd. Who is it? Sung Yan on this side was leaning back waiting for the match to begin. Seeing her so tense, the bodyguard asked, are you okay, miss? She answered, the higher the risk, the higher the profit, and with my intuition, if I do not take a daring challenge, I will not be able to defeat you guys now. Then she said, let's wait and see if the profit is high or the risk is high. He stood there silently. The man was also standing still, without saying anything. The drone announced, Kang Senyu's match begins. He slowly went into a defensive stance. No matter what, I have to win. When he was ready, he saw that the man did not move at all. He was confused. Why is not he preparing? Then he spoke. What is this? Are you going to fight or not? The man glared at him and replied, I'm a man, not the type to go around beating up kids. These principles of kindness made Senyu click his tongue. Tesk. The man leisurely walked towards him and said, I only punch with 10% of my strength. Kai finally warned, absolutely do not get up. Just one kick to Senyu's stomach, using the mere 10% he had spoken of, immediately made him feel like he had died and been reborn. The man said, do not get up. Then he kicked Senyu straight in the stomach, causing him to fly away. Yanwu immediately became worried. He saw that he could no longer stand up and said loudly, no. Just with one hit, he could not get up anymore. Is this the sign that the match is over? The man on this side also accepted it. It's really a pity, maybe he should give up. Minnow spoke up from behind, explaining that's not caused by the pain, which made him confused. He said, Kang Sen at you probably also felt that Kai did not intend to attack him. He simply wanted to scare him. The man was surprised. Kai did that to save him. Minnow sat down on the chair to rest and said, he's just ashamed he had never heard of this term before. What? He explained, because fighting a high schooler like that, Kay probably thinks that the match would really make him lose face. That's why he made the suggestion to make Kang Senyu fall to the ground and not stand up again. The man saw that he was not acting well and said, no, should not you be screaming in pain and not be able to stand up again? Kai said, if you do not do that, then you might die, so I will give you another chance to do it again. But in response to what he said, he scoffed dismissively, which made Kai a little confused. He slowly stood up and dusted off his pants, then said, do I really have to do that to survive? Which made Kai speechless as he looked at him. Then he said, it seems like you do not want to pretend to be unconscious, so I'll have to make you really unconscious. The man immediately tiptoed. This time he would not need to act. Then intended to kick him, but was immediately stopped by his leg. Sunjin was extremely surprised. Yanu was no exception. Even his teammates did not expect it. Sun Yu then kicked his other leg and clamped it. Kai yelled, not bad, I did not think your strength was this good. Then he quickly turned around and delivered a punch. When he punched down, he tilted his head to the side, which made Kai even more surprised. Why did he tilt his head to the left like that? He immediately raised his hand high, making the man quickly realize he was trapped. When Sen Yu punched his head down, Kai immediately bowed to take the blow. Yanwu and Minseok stared in surprise. Sunjian, on the other hand, smiled proudly. It seemed that she had placed her trust in the right person. The man gritted his teeth and said, "It seems that I was too careless." He said, "Given the opportunity is your thing, I will act according to my own way." Then he unleashed a barrage of counterattacks. What is the qualification of someone who kneels before a high school student like me to look down on me? And with that, Kai noticed his own leg. He was kneeling on one leg. He said, "I do not want to act with someone kneeling in front of me like that." Kai saw the high schooler in front of him so determined, then said, "If you think I have failed, then you're wrong. You're not acting according to my will." Then he put both hands on his shoulders and said, "Then I'll have to put you in the hospital." Sunanu was confused. Then a pressure suddenly transmitted to his shoulders, as if pinning his entire body down. "I cannot move." The man grinned, raised his head and said, 50% strength. He immediately said sharply, "Damn it." Then he slammed his head hard on Senu, like a hammer driving a nail. Blood splattered from his face, and Senu fell down as if he was lost. Kai immediately became scared. It seems that he could not stand up anymore. I used much more power than I intended. But looking down, his foot was already kicked up. Then a kick directly from under his chin upwards, causing the man to lose his balance and retreat. He flipped over, while the man seemed like he wanted to fall. Kai still gritted his teeth, maintaining his balance, and thinking, after being attacked like that, he is still unscathed. He quickly landed on the arena floor. He staggered because of dizziness. He gritted his teeth, his whole body shaking, and looked forward. His eyes were a little blurry, and he had difficulty recovering his focus quickly. He immediately woke up when Kai gathered strength for the attack and swung at him. Just with one hook, he immediately tore open Sinyu's shirt, and blood flowed from there. The man watched the match nervously, just a graze, and he's already bleeding. Minho said, "It's not over yet." Kai then lifted his leg towards him. Then he brutally kicked his knee into Sinyu's stomach, which caused blood to spurt from his mouth. The man continued to slam his elbow down. The man worriedly said loudly, "It will be a blow to the head. He will die." Immediately, his head was slammed down to the ground, blood splattering everywhere. Kai immediately slammed his elbow down on his head. The man on this side yelled worriedly, "Do not attack the back of his head. He will die." Finally, the man hit him with a blow that made his head stick to the arena floor, and the ground also collapsed. When everything fell into silence, with Senu lying flat on the ground, he could not hold back his voice. This is too much." But Minho suddenly breathed out a sigh. How really unreasonable, which made him turn. "What?" he said unhappily. "What exactly is that kid Kang Senu doing?" Kai, at this moment, was standing in front of Senyu's body pinned to the ground, wondering, is there really a kid like this? This guy avoided his elbow attack before it even touched him. At that time, he really was not hit by the man's attack on the back of his neck. Then he smashed his own head on the floor. Even Kai did not understand. He smashed his own head on the floor. Is he crazy? A moment of silence continued. The man muttered, "No, he must be panicking," and lost his composure when trying to avoid the attack on the back of his head. But even so, does he think his head is made of steel? Suddenly, Senyu stood up in the man's surprise. Kai wondered, he stood up that fast? I heard that even with doping, it's not possible, but how did he do that? He stood facing the man, his head without a single scratch. The man widened his eyes in surprise. What happened? Minho explained, "Kang Senyu is not the kid you need to worry about." He sighed, "Although I do not know what it is, but that kid is giving me the chills." He, along with his trembling body, struggled to get up, his eyes still focused on the man in front of him. The man said, "Hey kid, do not push yourself too hard. If you pretend to faint, you can live. Why do you have to?" Before he could finish, he interrupted, "Too noisy," which surprised him even more. He got into a fighting stance and said, "Let's see if your endurance is as strong as your mouth." Kai replied, Alright, let's see if you give up more easily when you realize that all your attacks are useless." Then he opened his arms to let him attack freely. "Come on, attack wherever you want. I will not fight back." Senyu thought, if he underestimates me to this extent, then that's good for me, but why do I feel so uncomfortable? Kai thought to himself, to become the strongest practical fighter, I bet everything. Slowly, the man's memories rushed back. I defeated all the fighters in the arena, but even so, I'm still not satisfied. I still think that only when surviving in real battles that demand lives, you are considered a true fighter. So I decided to face real fights. With notorious gangsters or assassins, I infiltrated the opponent's organization of the strong, defeated them one by one, and survived as the strongest fighter. So do you think a person like me will really fight with a high school student? The man urged, "Hit me wherever you want, it will be useless anyway." He quickly gathered power in his fist, then struck a very hard blow to his stomach. They were all surprised observing the next development. The entire arena was impacted by the punch, but the man stood still like a stone pillar. Kai confirmed, "Did not I say it's useless?" Then, scowling, he glared at him. "I'm not someone that some high school kid can handle." Just as he was feeling cool for a few seconds, he felt like his body was falling apart. He immediately raised his fist in preparation. One more time. Just when the fist hit, he completely failed to keep his serious expression. It was as if his body could feel the pain now. Kai was knocked back, surprised and wondering what was that? When Senyu continued to kick towards his face, Kai protected himself with his arm. Then he punched angrily, yelling, "You liar." He immediately wanted to escape from the attack, gritting his teeth and thinking, "I have to dodge." But he could not. The man was faster than he was. Senyu quickly got another slash on his chest. He frowned, calculating in his mind, "I thought I had dodged it. First, I need to widen the distance." Then he quickly ducked and retreated. They silently looked at each other. Kai spoke up in dissatisfaction, "How many more chances do I have to give you?" He just chuckled at the so-called kind nature of Kai, which made him feel even more disrespected. Laughing, Senyu then held onto his torn shirt. "It seems you forgot what you told me earlier." He then tore off his shirt, revealing his muscular body, along with a bloody wound on his chest. Senyu's teammates were surprised. What's with that muscle?" He smiled, answering, "Did not you clearly say that you would not resist?" Kai quickly responded, "Yes, I admit that." Then he clarified, "I meant that you're not just a kid being dragged out as a sacrifice. But keep this in mind, everything is your choice." Suddenly, his muscles tensed, his power seemed to be activated around his arm. Senyu also got excited and grinned. Kai was officially serious. He was using 100% of his body's power. Kai's arm began to emanate an energy that looked like scales inside the blood vessels. Senyu smiled with enjoyment. At that moment, he knew that the man was using all his power to fight him, 100%. The smile on Senyu's face was bizarre. Everything was captured by the old man's eyes, who was puzzled. "That kid Kang Senyu is smiling. It seems that he is losing control of the situation." Amanda replied, "He's excited." He scratched his head when he heard that. "Excited? The opponent has increased his power to 100% and is about to attack." She said, "The reason is simple. He thinks that if the opponent has used all his power to attack him, it means that the opponent has recognized his strength," which surprised him a bit. "It's unbelievable. They put themselves in a dangerous situation, and they still feel excited." Amanda added, "It's not hard to understand. All fighters think like that, including me," making him curious. She said, "As a woman, I have suffered many disadvantages in terms of body. The fighters never fought me with their full strength. But when an opponent acknowledges me, I will fight with all my strength along with their seriousness." I became excited and fought to the end. As she said that, she smiled because of those memorable memories. The old man thought it was strange. "Oh, those are really hard to understand. I think now is not the time for him to act that, but to worry about his own life instead." Minho added, "I can also understand that feeling," making the old man even more surprised. "What?" He said, "I have a small build and limited strength since I was young. In every arena, I never received any recognition from my opponent. This made me angry and felt like I was useless." Finally, after many efforts, Minho also reached the opponent's abdomen, making him pant and look at him with surprised eyes. He expressed with enjoyment, but when I got the moment when the opponent acknowledged me, I felt joy and excitement, making the old man feel like an ancient person. "Really?" He sighed, "So that's why he's acting like that. He can fight with that spirit. Then this match could bring a victory." At that moment, Senyu was determined to fight with a man who was twice as big as him. Kai's body was continuously emitting a burst of aura, as if he had reached his limit. Senyu smiled and said, "I'll attack first." After saying that, Senno rushed at his opponent and threw a lightning-fast punch. He hit the man on his bicep, making the old man in the stands gasp in surprise. The punch was quite strong. With that kind of damage, could he be able to do anything? It seemed that hitting the opponent would lead to victory, but his punch was nothing compared to Kai's skin. Even he had to admit, his skin is as hard as tempered steel. He then raised his remaining hand, preparing to punch towards him. "Since you attacked, then try to withstand this move." Just one punch in retaliation sent Senyu's body crashing to the floor in a defensive stance, the floor underneath cracking. The entire arena suddenly emitted a burst of energy, causing the ground and surrounding rocks to vibrate. Senna finally coughed up blood because of the extremely powerful force of the punch. The old man gritted his teeth. The punch was so strong that the ground shook. That strength is unimaginable. The man suddenly raised his leg backward. Then he kicked his knee down on where Senyu was pinned, blood shooting up from underneath. The old man was so worried that he could not say anything. But looking more closely, Senyu was no longer there. He slowly stood up, continuing to face the man. The old man went from one surprise to another. He dodged it. Minho diagnosed, and not really, he might seem like he dodged it, but he did not. Senyu looked back at his back. He gasped and was surprised to see a large scratch on his back, from which blood was flowing profusely. Sennen looked back at Kai, thinking, "The feeling is too strange. It's like I'm feeling Standing in front of him, I feel so small and pathetic. Kai looked down and asked, "You give up already, kid? You'll never have a chance of winning against me." Sen Yu did not concede and brushed off his threat. "Do not act like that. I will also have my own way of fighting against opponents like you." He then squatted down with his hand on the ground. "What you can do, I can do better." After saying that, he jumped up with the momentum from his hand, simultaneously raising his elbow high. He landed with an elbow strike, but Kai only needed a slight tilt of his head to easily dodge his attack. Sen Yu was currently in a kneeling position on the ground, cursing, "Damn it." The man started to get excited. "It's my turn now." Kai curled his lips, his eyes turning red. The old man quickly realized what was about to happen, a headbutt. At the same time, Sen Yu lowered his body, lifted his heel. "It seems we need to face each other in the literal sense." Immediately when Sen Yu and Kai jumped, they butted heads. A loud thud echoed through the arena, and blood started to ooze from where their heads met. However, his head was as hard as steel and was unharmed, while Sen Yu's was bloodied. He immediately fell down and knelt on the ground. His whole body was trembling suddenly, as if he had exhausted all his strength. The man said, "The outcome has been decided. All of your attacks are useless against me. Relying on talent and instinct alone will not allow you to defeat me." But instead of trembling in fear because of the pain, Sen Yu was smiling. His body was trembling because he was smiling. Kai was confused. "You're smiling?" He said, "All right, it's time to end this match." Then he threatened again with his muscles filled with energy. "If you do not stay put, I'll help you." Suddenly, he saw something. His body was emitting an aura like smoke, similar to a piece of iron being heated up in a strange way. He looked at him in surprise. At that moment, Sen Yu's body was steaming profusely, as if being heated up. The old man watched in surprise. What is that? What's with that temperature? The blood and sweat are evaporating." He slowly raised his head with blazing red eyes. Sen-Oh remembered himself as a child. "I never liked fighting. I was always dragged into arguments that made me feel like a monster, and I hated that. But being dragged here so unreasonably, is it possible that I'm finally driven to madness?" I cannot stop laughing. His mouth continued to curve up excitedly. He continued to think while kneeling. I cannot control the desire to fight with him. Suddenly, Kai kicked him. Sen Yu's eyes widened, and his nerves reacted like a warning. In an instant, he dodged the man's leg sweep with a full body jump. Kai did not expect this scenario. Sen Yu quickly flipped out, using his hands to grab the sides of the man's head. Kai was in disarray, too fast, while the man was unprepared. He headbutted him. Immediately, the old scene was repeated, but unlike before, Sen Yu was the one actively headbutting him. Kai was unprepared and easily took the damage. As fast as a flash, Sen Yu flipped to the other side. Then a straight kick was launched. Sen Yu's whole body flew horizontally, causing Kai to be pushed and slam his body into the wall. He landed lightly. The man leaned his hand on the wall, gritting his teeth and thinking, clearly this is not a human's movement anymore. Suddenly, he saw another fist flying towards him. He had just landed, and quickly jumped up and continued to attack, not giving the man a chance to counter. His head immediately slammed into the wall, as if merging into one. The man, reacting quickly, was able to catch Sen Yu's fist. Got it. Suddenly, he pulled his hand back, pulling Kai's entire body in surprise, then suddenly punched his stomach with a sharp punch as if it was a beast's claw. While the man's body was still suspended in the air, along with the still hot fist, Sen Yu punched the man's stomach again, causing Kai to jerk backward. He could do nothing but take the full punch. His mouth could not even close. Kai was pushed backward, maintaining his balance by dragging his heel on the floor to hold on. He was breathing heavily, tired, and could not believe his eyes. What is this? What is that doping? Is that kid not getting tired? While the man was talking to himself, he immediately rushed over after only a short time. He kept punching. Kai quickly grabbed his punch, then kicked back, but Sen Yu was no less in speed and quickly jumped behind him and continued to attack. Taking the opportunity when he had not turned around, Sen Yu struck him several times on the face, hip, and stomach. Kai lost his balance again, constantly cursing, you crazy bastard. When he looked again, what he saw was very familiar. It was Sen Yu's fist. He threw his whole body forward and punched him directly in the face, causing Kai's face to be splattered with blood. This time, there was no defense. His weakness was just touched, and he fell back, his back sliding on the ground. Kai seemed unable to maintain his consciousness, and could not hold his hand up. The uncle at that time was silent and could not say anything more. Kai's entire body was smoking, and lay on the floor along with a long slide mark. From the viewpoint from the stand, half of his body, because of the long slide on the ground, was soaked in blood, looking like it was scratched. The uncle was curious. It seems that guy is spilling a lot of blood. Will he die? Suddenly, Amanda said that's not Kai's blood, which made him ask, what? She replied, that's the blood flowing out from Kang Sen Yu's fist. Looking back at Sen Yu at that time, he was still maintaining his stance with his bloodied hand dripping blood. It seemed that Kai's body was too much for him. Although Sen Yu was a bit dizzy, he still did not take his eyes off his opponent and thought, what is this dizzy feeling? Sen Yu looked back at his bloodied arm. Uff, it feels like all the muscles in my body are tearing apart. The man slowly stood up in front of his staggering state. Sun Jian from the other room was also restless. How is Kai still standing up? The bodyguard beside her explained, Kai's skin doping seems to act as an extremely tough armor. Moreover, his rough and solid skin has made Kang Senyu's fist rip open to the bone. Theories that seem to have no principle to break made her grit her teeth. So that means it's impossible to defeat Kai. The man made eye contact with Seninu. Even so, his body was still sweating a lot, and in his heart, he thought, I've never felt pain like this before. Anyway, since his eyes could not open, his body must have reached its limit. Kai started to harbor contempt. He quickly got into a ready position, break his leg and finish it. But Senyu still had the strength to raise his fist, which made Kai stop in surprise. He can still react this quickly. He gritted his teeth and used his arm to block the attack. As soon as his attack hit his arm, it immediately became like it was cut by a knife and blood more. Senyu could not believe his eyes. Now he only had the last resort, right? I'll just keep fighting until he cannot hold on anymore. As soon as he thought that Kai was already bloodthirsty and rushed in, raising his fist to counter. Both of them constantly threw punches at each other, like a hand-to-hand fight. Senno kept punching without looking. Did my attack hit? I could not feel anything in my fist anymore. He gradually lost focus. His eyes also started to squint drowsily. No, my mind. Kai on this side also became confused. This kid is taking my punches head-on without being hurt. It's like his skin is made of steel. His hand had felt the numbness. What is this numb feeling? Kai kept looking for the end point. What is this? It feels like my fist has no strength left. I cannot drag this out any longer. Then he widened his eyes and saw an opening. I see. There is a weak point. All right, now I will end everything. My 10 years will be put in this. Kai shouted this low kick, then raised his leg back. He immediately kicked Sen-U hard in the calf, which made him look painfully at the arena floor ceiling. He raised his leg back again, preparing for the next kick. I will break your leg. A loud thud shook the arena floor. Kai, he said, then delivered a powerful kick to his shin. The man looked up, worried. He blocked the low kick with his shin. As he pulled his instep back, a patch of Sen-Yu's flesh was torn off. Piazza Yusuke, clearly worried, continued, Oh my god, listen to that horrible sound. He might have broken his bone. Sen-U quickly lost his balance and collapsed, falling to his knees. He stared at his leg, where his skin and muscle had been torn. His thoughts raced, my muscles are torn, I cannot move anymore. As he looked up, Kai was already delivering another kick. He shouted finishing blow. Usyk shouted no, but things did not go as expected. Before his foot could reach Sen-U, Kai's leg snapped in half on the floor, shocking Kai. He froze, wondering what happened. Losing his balance, he quickly fell, using his one remaining leg to support himself. But at the same time, his forearm snapped as it hit the ground. The intense pain flooded Kai's mind with confused thoughts. Am I dreaming? It's clear there was no popping to strengthen the bones. Did he accept sacrificing his flesh from the start to target my bones? He collapsed completely, lying face down. Everyone was stunned by the complete reversal of the situation. Yun Yu and his secretary could not believe their eyes. Sung Yan, on the other hand, seemed very proud. Kai's face was frozen as he pressed against the ground. Meanwhile, Sen-U slowly got up, panting heavily. Yun Yu exclaimed, That's astonishing. Min Sif explained the fight. Kai can fight without leaving a wound thanks to his muscles and tight skin, but that made his shoulder take too much damage. On the outside, it seems fine, but deep inside the bone felt like it was hit by a sledgehammer. The pain was also reduced by the effects of doping. Seeing his body without any visible wound made him more confident to attack. Now all the joints in Kai's limbs are broken. The drone began to approach to assess Kai's condition, and the contestant Kai is unable to continue. Therefore, the victory goes to contestant Kang Sen-U. Upon hearing that, Sen-U happily raised his face and screamed. Piazza Yusuke, who had been watching from beginning to end, could not understand his workings. Is that guy a zombie or something? How can he not fall after being hit like that? Minho said that Kang Sen-U guy is definitely hiding something. Sen-U finally loosened his muscles and fell back to lie down. Though panting with exhaustion, he happily said in his heart, Mom, wait for me just a little bit longer. Observing him from the security room, the director recognized his ability. We've confirmed that this Kang Sen-U does not use doping, right? He asked. The male medic replied yes, according to his file. He does not. After round 1 ends, we will conduct a physical test and confirm it once again. The director continued, but before that, we must investigate the student Kang Sen-Yu's background. Then, with a dangerous glint in his eye, he stated his goal, go and find his parents. At the hospital on a rainy night, Sen-Yu's mother was sleeping beside her husband's hospital bed. Suddenly, someone appeared behind her and she looked up, turning around. She frowned, thinking it was Sen-No. You still have time to come back. Sen-Yu's mother took a moment to realize. Seeing 2 huge bodyguards standing beside each other, facing her husband's bed, she panicked. Who are you people? Back at the arena, they sent staff to carry Sen-Yu to recover using a stretcher. He lay on it, his eyes closed, breathing heavily with blood on his body. In the VIP room, Yuna, with his chin propped up, asked, even though he defeated Kai with those injuries, can he win the next fight? The secretary replied, there will be a physical examination afterward. It's not too late to decide after the confirmation. The more important thing is this exam. I plan to conduct a secret doping test. He was surprised what Min-san replied, for example, if he passes the second popping test, then Kang Sen-yu will be the strongest candidate for the championship. He doubted, is it possible to do that test secretly? According to the rules, if a player refuses, we cannot conduct the test. He pulled out a syringe, saying, the drug only checks if there's doping in the body. Even if we check for doping, we can still proceed secretly without anyone knowing, because it does not change much. Yeon-yu frowned, speaking of the worst-case scenario. What if he fails? He replied sternly, if he fails, he's worthless. It's best to have a backup plan ready. At Kang Sen-yu's recovery room, he was put into a recovery pod. Outside, a spy medic approached with the familiar syringe in hand. When the pod door opened, Sen-yu was sleeping deeply inside, and the experiment began. In Yeon-yu's room, he was still waiting. He said, now we just need to do well and win one more match to get into the top 16. Then looking at Min-suf-si, you mean if we win one more match, among the 31 people ranked by bets, we can get into the top 16? He replied, that's right. He asked again, do you think someone as injured as Kang Sen-yu will still have high betting odds? Min-suk replied, do not you think so? He won more than 2 times without using doping. In the arena, no one has won a single match without doping. The fact that he joined the 62 without using doping has already attracted the attention of VIP clients. If he wins again, we will surely make a lot of money. Yeon-yu frowned. Even so, if he does not use doping in the end, will not he be unable to win? Is not now the time we should secure an advantage with a guaranteed win? He raised his glasses. Surely Kang Sen-yu has realized by now. If he wants to win and find his parents, he must use doping. He said, for example, if Kang Sen-yu's body cannot use doping, what will happen in the next match? We must definitely give up. Min-skek said, from the moment he loses, I have prepared to cut his protection costs, hospital costs, as well as support for Kang Sen-yu's parents. Yeon-yu finally replied, okay, even so, there is no way Kang Sen-yu could hear any news about his parents. Min-skuk said, now just wait a little longer. The support will report on the doping results. He questioned, as expected of a secretary assigned from the arena, can you even conduct this secret test? The secretary's eyes sharpened. There's no way. I risked my life to do this. He was confused. Why would you risk your life for this? It's definitely not for me, right? He said, is not the most fun thing about dealing with the vice president is to surpass your brother and become a self-defense master? Yeon-yu was surprised. Really? He continued, I feel that way too. Discovering the best person in matches. To achieve this joy, I can do anything, even if it's my life. Then he smiled knowingly, or maybe someone else's life. He smirked at him, huh? You really think like a madman? The door to the room suddenly opened, and both men looked back. It was the spy they sent. He had returned with the sample. It's time to leave, sir. Min-suk asked, how are the doping results? He closed the door, saying it's a bit unexpected. Then he got to the main point. He has no reaction. He slowly brought it. Min-sufi was confused. So his body really does not react to doping. The spy replied, that's right. Yeon-yu was now angry. Hey, what did I say? Quickly erase all evidence related to Kang Sen-yu and cut his parents' aid. But he suddenly changed his mind. No, or maybe making his parents disappear would be faster, right? In the recovery pod, Sen-yu had quickly completely recovered his physical health. At the waiting lounge in the arena, it was as bustling as ever. Minho, standing behind the crowd, spoke. Everyone gathered at the lounge, so it seems they've decided on the 62 winners. Piazza Yusik said, it seems like Kang Sen-yu has not recovered yet. He has not come back here. Amanda, stretching her legs, said, well, maybe it's a stroke of luck. We have to wait until all the players have recovered before it can start anyway. She continued, it's good to rest enough during this chance. Minho's jaw dropped, thinking to himself, just how far does she want to go? She added, he looked tired from the beginning. Minho replied, actually, like me and Kang Sen-yu, when fighting in this place, injuries are inevitable. The two of you have entered the top 62 so calmly. Especially Piusika's arm. No one could have imagined his right arm would be so big. He laughed awkwardly. I do not even know how my arm could have changed like that. Minho looked over and said, for you, a man like Gryu, your opponent underestimated you because you were a girl, but in the end, the result was shocking. You defeated your opponent with just one blow. She replied, actually, it was so fast and chaotic. So until now, I do not know how I defeated him. Minho asked again, I wonder if you could tell me how to defeat an opponent. She said, do you think I'd tell you? He was surprised. What? Amanda glanced at him. You mean I'd tell my opponent before I defeat them? Hearing those words, he was completely surprised. His body stiffened. Before he could recover, Menon scared him with a shout. Why did you eliminate me? Making him jump. Oof. He jumped up, raising his hands high. The first winner is Menon. From the screen in the lounge, the administrator's image appeared. Congratulations everyone for making it into the top 62. Now, just one more winner and we'll give that person a chance to enter the top 16. In this round, if you win and get into the match of 31, then we L rank by betting amounts and then the top 16 will be formed. Just by getting into the top 16 and surviving, you will immediately receive 5% of the betting money. Immediately, everyone in the lounge became excited and started making a fuss. The administrator continued, if you want more betting money, Sacrifice your lives and show your full power in this round. Do not worry about being injured because this place is the biggest hospital before the arena. So let's announce the match list. At the Hoshin Group headquarters, Yunyu asked so except for Kang Sinu. All the other candidates have been decided. Min Safa, standing in front of the desk, replied, of course, sir. Then he said, indeed, this player looks very suitable. He was surprised who. The secretary looked at the screen showing the image of a player named Ichika Ryo. He said, this is Kang Senyu's final round opponent. At Kang Senyu's recovery room, the recovery pod's lid slowly opened. It was when Senyu suddenly woke up worried and called out, Mom. But in the end, it was just a dream. He hugged his head, breathing heavily, and insisted, it was not a dream, I really heard it. Earlier, the medic stood in front of his recovery pod, holding a touch screen, and talked to the other line. If he does not react to doping, then we'll make his parents disappear. Yeah, even so, there's no way Kang Senyu can hear the news about his parents. He remembered it and frowned, muttering, I must get out of here quickly. At the combat zone director's office, the director spoke, have you examined the student Kang Senyu's body yet? The man replied, yes, sir, there's something very strange. The director was surprised. Strange, he said. His bone density that we cannot strengthen with doping has increased tenfold. His face became serious. The director could only sigh, ha, this is insane. He continued, it does not stop there. He asked, is there anything else? He adjusted his glasses, looked at the tablet screen, and replied, his recovery ability is really fast. No, this is not recovery ability. It's more like regeneration. On the screen was the analysis of Kang Senyu's body and structure. The director stood up when he heard that. He continued, maybe this student holds the clue about body regeneration that we've always been looking for. The director asked again, it's really strange. Have Kang Senyu's parents been secured? The man could only lower his head and say, I'm sorry, making him surprised. Why? He replied, when we got there, someone had already intervened. His face showed regret. Back in Kang Senyu's recovery room, he slowly stepped out of the pod. Senyu gritted his teeth. If I do not get out of here quickly, something might happen to my parents. He looked at the door to the recovery room and thought, damn it, there's no vent in here. Senyu walked to the door handle. I need to find a vent outside the recovery room. As soon as he opened it, there was a strange light outside. It was the appearance of a woman. He froze for a moment. She spoke, looks more interesting up close. It was Sung Yan. She smiled, reached out her hand to introduce herself. I'm Che Sung Yun. In response, Senno hastily shooed her away. Quick, get out of here. She just stood in front of the door, blocking his way, and said, if you're planning to look for your parents, you do not need to anymore, which made him raise his voice. What is it? Sung Yan replied, because I've already taken them away. He was surprised. What do you mean? At the office of Vice President Yanyu, the second son of the Hosen Group, he asked, someone has already dealt with Kang Senyu's parents. What do you mean by that? The secretary said, judging by how cleanly they disappeared without a trace, the people from the combat treatment facility probably took action. He questioned again, the combat treatment facility. He replied, yes, because they always handle the difficult elements first. Yanyu's lips curled slightly. They are indeed a cunning bunch. It's perfect timing, so we do not have to take action ourselves. He looked up, have you approached the next fighter yet? The secretary replied, Vice President, you do not need to worry. At the combat treatment facility, if a VIP wants it, they can call them to the VIP room anytime. Furthermore, in the restricted area, they can go anywhere. Yunyu was surprised. They'll go among those monsters. He answered, yes, that's right. Among the VIPs, some are curious and willing to pay just to take a tour. But touring the combat zone is not a good idea, except for the VIP rooms. But safety cannot be guaranteed either. Back in Kang Senyu's recovery room, Sung Yan slowly closed the door. The truth made him shout, you said you took my parents away. What do you mean by that? She quickly covered his mouth, raising a finger to signal silence. Shush, speak softly if you want to save your parents. Then run away immediately. Now is not the time to save them. He quickly pushed her hand away. What do you mean? Sung Yan replied, as you know, Che Yanu, who used to be your is trying to cut ties with you. He's trying to get rid of your parents. But the loan sharks you bankrupted are also after you, which made Sen U click his tongue. She continued, because I wanted to talk to you privately. I did not bring a guide. From now on, listen carefully to what I say. I really hope your parents are safe. Sen Yu still could not hold back his anger. Who are you? What do you really want? She calmly said, I am Sung Yan. I only want one thing. It's you, which made him surprised. Sen Yu gritted his teeth. What nonsense are you suddenly spouting? Sung Yan said, I'm also one of the 16 VIPs, so I need a reliable fighter. He was even more surprised. You're a VIP. Sung Yan laughed and said, although I'm still young, not long ago, I used to be one of the owners of the Hosen Group. If I say I'm the half-sister of Vice President Che, Yanayu, the second in command of the Hosen Group, you'd understand better, right? He could not help but be shocked. What? Sung Yan then said, now I've been kicked out of Hosen because of the second in command's division. I was planning to quit anyway. Business is going well now, so it's okay. But that crazy second son keeps draining money from our father's company, so I cannot just stand by and watch. Sun Yu was resentful. How does that relate to you taking my parents away? She continued, that's why I've always been suspicious and monitoring those sons, especially that clumsy second son. But when I saw him focusing all his attention on you, I also investigated and tried to meet your parents. Sung Yan smiled, you're more talented than I thought, so I cannot let him take you. I mean your genes. Sun Yu was still stunned. What? Sun Yu stammered, genes, my genes. She said, now, what's more important is that the forces targeting your parents have not stopped yet. He looked up, if escaping is also ineffective, then what should we do? She replied, for sure, there is only one way for you and your family to survive. He bit his lip, a way, what way? Sung Yan replied, it's victory. The answer made him dumbfounded. She smiled and said, I'm betting everything on victory in the combat treatment facility. I plan to make a deal to take down my 2 older brothers. The grand plan surprised Sin. She continued, especially the second brother will be destroyed in prison and become useless. At that time, he will no longer be a threat. We can easily buy off the loan sharks with money. He was flustered. What does a secret deal in a place like this even mean? Sung Yan seriously said, if you do not follow the fair trading rules in the combat treatment facility, because here everything will be resolved quickly in their own way. He frowned, glancing at her. Are you planning to risk betting on a life or death deal like that with me? Sung Yan crossed her arms. It's not just me who needs you. When entering the round of 16, the fighters who are not chosen by a VUP will be immediately eliminated. Senu quickly said, then how can I be sure that my parents will be safe? How can I trust people like you? Sung Yan said, here you're not allowed to bring phones or anything, so I cannot show you. Hearing that made him exclaim, what? Sung Yan continued, however, if it's someone who is able to share deep secrets with your parents, then they must be very trustworthy, right? Senu stood there, what? Sung Yan said, especially the information related to your genes and your parents' past. Senu started to panic. What exactly do you want? What exactly is it? Suddenly the door opened. A drone slowly entered to check. Sung Yan leaned close, whispering in his ear, remember this, I will protect your parents at all costs, so you must not run away. At the same time, the drone spoke, it's time to return. Sung Yan quickly turned and left, reminding him, you do not need to worry about anything else. Just win with me, that's enough. Senu watched her back and bit his lip. At combat treatment facility number 10, room for 5 people, Wusik said, this has significantly increased our prize money. The ranking is now displayed, Amanda 19, Wusik 22, Minho 28, Minon 45 and Senu 62. He pondered, Kang Senu is ranked 62nd. Minho spoke up, perhaps the injuries and having to go to the recovery room have significantly affected him. No matter how outstanding his combat performance is, no one would dare to bet on an injured player. Suddenly the door opened. A drone slowly flew. Finally, it announced, player Kang Senu has returned to room number 10. Senu slowly appeared at the doorway. Wusik happily spread his arms. Oh, what's going on? You look healthier than I thought. How much rest did you get that your face looks like that? He became surprised. Senino at this moment bit his lip and asked, how can one win without getting injured? He trembled and continued, I have to get into the round of 16 at all costs. If I cannot get in, my family will. Whatever it is, please tell me. I will do everything I can. Please help me, Senyu said loudly and resolutely, which made Wusik call out to him, Senyu. Senyu's face darkened. It really is not going well, is it? Immediately, Amanda spoke up, a special technique, which made both men turn their eyes towards her. He was surprised. A special technique, she explained. It's very difficult for people without their own special techniques to gain an advantage in a fight. This is even more true when facing the giant monsters in the combat treatment facility. She asked again, so what are your strengths? Senyu stammered, Surprisingly, Wusik knelt down and gently touched his leg. What about a low kick performed with the shin? He looked at him in surprise. He continued, very few people can control their feet as smoothly as you in the fight with Kai. You trusted your shin so much that you dared to use it to block a low kick from a well-trained opponent. Wusik tried a kick, saying, recently the techniques for low kicks have become much more sophisticated. Many opponents have been defeated with just one accurate kick. Kang Sena, do you want to try your hand at a low kick? Sena quickly kicked out straight, instantly generating a strong force. Wusik was happy. What was that? What was that loud sound just now? He scratched his head. You're really crazy. Suddenly, from the door on the other side, a voice echoed, attracting everyone's attention. Wusik was stunned. What's that sound? Finally, what is this noise? That sound came from the end of the corridor. It came from a closed room. Inside, a man was throwing punches into the air. The wind also blew strongly, creating a tremor and destroying the tiled floor. His name is Ichika Ryo, ranked 15, belonging to the Kudo fighters. Wusik laughed and added, if you can defeat your opponent with a kick like that, your chances of winning in hand-to-hand combat will increase, so you can advance to the next round more safely, and your prize money will also increase. Suddenly, Menum behind Senyu spoke up strangely. It's not that simple, which immediately made him say, huh. Then, startled, they faced each other. What? He raised his head and said, do you know what Kang Senyu's special move is? He was surprised. What? Menon pointed at his forehead. It's that headbutt. He gave a strange smile. How many headbutts can you take? from the strongest champion. The fact that you can fight normally after taking those headbutts means your skull is also quite hard, Menon said, sticking out his tongue, looking weird and caressing his head. Woo-sik looked at Senu, who was struggling against him, and said, "You know that while headbutting is strong, the person using it is also damaged correspondingly. And when headbutting strong opponents in combat, the chances of you suffering brain damage are quite high." Menon added, "You really talk strangely," which made him surprised. "What?" He grinned. "Once you're in here, who is not putting their life on the line?" Everyone was dumbfounded after hearing that. He said, "If you keep hesitating and not deciding, you will not achieve anything." Then Menon, like a madman, made a throat-cutting gesture and stuck out his tongue, saying, "Ha, then you will have already taken a big defeat for yourself." Woo-sik could only grit his teeth. Menon continued, "But it seems like that's not what Kang Sen-yu is currently worried about, is it?" Woo-sik was surprised again. "Ho!" He then said, "Have you looked at your next opponent?" On the match board, Han Min-soo, ranked 9th, was scheduled to fight, along with Pushus, at the management area. Inside the security room, the director picked up his tablet and looked at it. This guy's reactions to the stimulant are terrifying. On the tablet screen was the information of Min-soo, this Han Min-soo. It was a good idea to bring him here. He happily spread his arms, while behind him was a large laboratory, storing regenerated fighters. The director said to his staff, "He's the doctor's son, right?" He bowed his head in sorrow. Finally, he said, "Thank you," then bowed. "It's all thanks to your help." His face began to twist. Inside his mind, thoughts appeared. "I did the right thing, because I had no other choice." When I did not know about the combat zone, old memories came flooding back. He used to go to work and come home like any other employee. Opening the door, he'd call out, "I'm a bit late. Sorry, son." My son had a rare muscle atrophy disease. He recounted. At that time, the scene in front of him was Min-soo with a bony body, lying in a puddle with a glass that had been accidentally dropped and broken. He could only weakly say, "Father, I fell, I cannot get up," which broke his heart. Tears flowed down his cheeks. I could not do anything at that time. I was just an ordinary doctor. When I was hopeless, thinking everything was over, I received a message from the director, whom I had never met. I did not think they would call me to the morgue where the hospital operated. He opened the door and entered. It was a path leading to the basement. The crazy thing was here was a series of the director's human test subjects. The chambers always had breathing tubes and liquid infusions. At the place the director called me to, there was a list of well-known scientists and businessmen that you only need to hear about to know. I did not care why they were doing this. But when I saw the results of the doping tests here, I could not stop my tears. My son could be saved. The director appeared behind him and spoke up. "Doctor, how do you feel about this?" He immediately startled and turned around. He raised his hand, saying that your son can participate in the project. He was touched. I was too excited that I forgot many things, but thinking about it, I could not let my son be a guinea pig. At that time, I started running to my son. At that time, my son had lost hope. When he got home, he saw his poor son trying to hang himself and end it all. He immediately ran to him, hugged him, and pulled him out. I was able to save him in time, and at the same time realized the situation I was in. When hugging Min-soo in his arms, he weakly begged, "Father, please, let me." He was in excruciating pain. In the end, I could not do anything. I had no choice but to participate in the experiment. Did I have any other choice in that situation? I did everything for my son, but now he's become a monster. Beyond that darkness is the Min-soo of today. He stood before the arena gate. Drones hovered above, announcing 12 contestants enter the arena. Min-soo headed towards the open gate. He slowly emerged, his eyes with eerie black pupils, and standing in front of the arena was Woo-sik. He rotated his wrist, his face serious, and said, "Let's begin." Isekai ranked 22nd. Fighting Han Min-soo ranked 9th. The drone announced, "This is the match between player Piuc, ranked 22nd, and Han Min-soo, ranked 9th. Match start." As soon as the command was given, Min-soo immediately lunged to attack, while Woo-sik raised his arm in defense. But things did not go as planned. He attacked the weakness of his shoulder, and just a slight pressure made it bleed. This was completely unexpected, making Woo-sik surprised. "My arm." The spectators were immediately astonished. Minho grimaced, using a dagger technique in barehanded combat. PCU-6 probably did not expect this. Suddenly, Min-soo's finger could not be pulled out. This made him grit his teeth. "What, is he clamping my finger with his muscle?" Woo-sik spoke calmly. "Hey buddy, do not you think you're standing too close?" At this moment, his arm stretched out, his palm open, making Min-soo even more confused. Instantly, he landed a palm strike on his face. Unable to resist or retreat, Min-soo was immediately grabbed. Woo-sik quickly slammed his fist onto the arena floor, hoping to smash his head down with it. The tiles underneath cracked. Min-soo was struggling to breathe under his power, but luckily he managed to escape. Quickly, a large gust of wind from his fist forced Min-soo to retreat. Finally, when the wind stopped, both of them had a moment of silence. Min-soo breathed heavily, sweat pouring down. "What is this? That old man." He smirked and said, using a dagger technique in barehanded combat, "That's just too much. So now it's my turn to return the favor." Then Wu Sik placed his hand in a leaf position, a move from Krav Maga. He said, I will use my dagger technique. Immediately, Yanu was a little impressed. Wu Sik, who is that man that can deal with Han Min-soo, ranked 9th so easily. I was planning to consider Han Min-soo as well. But who is this Wu Sik anyway? The secretary standing next to him replied, he is a former bodyguard specializing in Krav Maga. He was surprised. Krav Maga. He explained in the mid-20th century, violence against Jews was increasing. This is a martial art created by a former Jewish soldier to protect innocent civilians. This is a martial art that combines various martial arts from around the world with the goal of maximizing effectiveness in real combat situations. It is known as a particularly effective martial art in close combat. Yunyu frowned, wondering if this is a martial art created for defense. Does that mean it is weak in attack? It seems our candidate is not as promising as we thought. The secretary replied, I'm not so sure, surprising him. He said, what if that defensive method can kill the opponent? Min Sefu's face clearly showed the danger of the martial art. Below the arena, Wu Sik was ready in his stance, his two arms bent at shoulder level. Then he quickly charged forward, his hands shaped like a sword tip. His quick speed soon reached his fingertip to his eye. Suddenly Min-soo said, slow. Instantly, his head moved to the side to dodge. Min-soo laughed with interest, slow, and then quickly raised his two fingers, continuing to use his two fingers to reach for his head. Wu Sik was confused. What are you planning to do? Instantly, his fingers stabbed into Wu Sik's temple, blood splattering out, causing him so much pain that he dropped his glasses. Wu Sik quickly reacted with a forearm chop, but he quickly retreated to dodge. He quickly lunged forward, frowning and thinking, I have to catch him at all costs. Min-soo laughed, saying, with that deformed body, with only one large arm like that, can you keep up with me? No matter how much you try to run, it will be useless. Wu Sik immediately put both hands on the floor, up. He commanded, then used all his strength to lift his sprained arm, quickly gaining momentum and jumping toward him very quickly with all his might. In an instant, his hand reached Min-soo's face. Although it did not have a big impact on him, it created a slight scratch on Min-soo's cheek. He continued to strike, and Min-soo dodged every attack smoothly. He quickly jumped out of the attack range and said with a laugh, it's useless. Wu Sik saw that Min-soo was standing parallel to him. Again worried and looking around, damn it. He immediately took advantage of the moment his arm was still raised and attacked, quickly stabbing his fingers into Wu Sik's ribs. Min-soo said triumphantly while dodging his attacks, with that slow body, you're still trying to move to avoid being hit in a vital spot. Let's see how long you can endure. Immediately, Min-soo was like a lightning bolt, releasing many similar attacks, as if multiplying to surround him, stabbing continuously into his body. Wu Sik was in a daze, unable to react to his speed. I cannot keep up, he said to himself. Then he launched a final blow into Wu Sik's bloodied body, and immediately, his side started to bleed. The spectators were amazed by Min-soo's lightning-fast skills. Minho frowned, is this how a 9th rank is? Is there no other way? He was still standing without collapsing, but his body was covered with wounds and blood, and his body was shaking because he could not hold on any longer. Min-soo looked at his bloody state and laughed, saying, still keeping your fighting stance to the very end, you're really persistent. Seeing you clench your fist like that, it seems you've given up on the dagger technique, right? Wu Sik could do nothing but try to spread his arms wider. Min-soo disdainfully said, loudly guessing, are you trying to expand your defense? Are you planning to catch me if I get closer? He laughed and raised his two fingers. Then he quickly launched a powerful attack on Wu Sik, yelling, you think you can deal with me by doing that? Die. Instantly, his finger grazed across his body. Wu Sik was overwhelmed with paralyzing pain, his mouth spitting out blood everywhere. It could be seen that he had pressed his fist into the middle of his chest, leaving behind an imprint, and was coughing violently. Minho began to worry about his teammate. Yusi hit his own chest. Amanda quietly observed and explained, he's not hurting himself, he's aiming for his opponent's finger, not his chest. Right after her explanation, Min-soo's two fingers showed clear signs of breaking, making him panic and speechless. Min-soo was surprised and frowned, this crazy old man. Wu Sik quickly punched him again. He gritted his teeth, damn it. He was immediately hit in the stomach, blood also spurting out from there. Wu Sik was quickly pushed back, hitting the wall hard, the wall quickly cracking and crumbling. Min-soo spat out blood in pain. Wu Sik was also exhausted, blood spurting out of his mouth. He thought, this guy is not someone who will be easily finished. I have to quickly launch another attack. However, his arm still could not be lifted. The muscles around my right arm are too badly damaged. Wu Sik forced his muscles to lift. By any means, I have to launch another attack. Now I only have one move left. He immediately ran forward to prepare for the next attack. Wu Sik shouted, this is the only one. He prepared to throw a punch. At that moment, a chilling sensation flashed through Wu Sik. He staggered forward. Sun Yu on the other side shouted, just a little bit more, sir. Wu Sik could see the target in front of him, but he could not complete the attack. His vision was also gradually decreasing. He thought, damn it, I'm bleeding too much. I cannot even lift my arm. Finally, his eyelids could not lift anymore. Wu Sik slowly thought in his heart, son, I'm sorry, but in a moment, he regained a little consciousness. What am I thinking? The match is not finished, snap out of it. But as soon as he opened his eyes, what was in front of him was Min-Soo approaching, using 2 fingers to attack his eyes. Woo-sik was completely panicked. His mouth and eyes could not close for even a second. He screamed wildly, "I'm originally right-handed." Instantly, Min-Soo stabbed his finger into his chest. Woo-sik was so shocked that he could not close his mouth. Senna kept yelling from the stands, "Sir." Woo-sik's body stiffened, but luckily, he blocked the attack with his palm. But on the contrary, his fingers were deeply embedded. Min-Soo laughed, saying, "Trying to block even when your palm is pierced, truly admirable." Woo-sik tried his best to block, but Min-Soo showed no sign of stopping, "'Cause my fingers are a bit long, so..." Instantly, he stabbed even deeper, causing him excruciating pain. He then collapsed hopelessly, making Sinew stiffen, "Sir." At this moment, Min-Soo looked at the glass doors, where his teammate Woo-sik's stands were located. He laughed, calling out loudly, "Kang Sinew." This immediately made Sinew freeze. He said loudly, "Look closely, this old man died because of a useless guy like you." As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly pulled his 2 fingers out of Woo-sik's palm, leaving a bloody hole. This made Sinew even more worried. Quickly, old memories of Woo-sik came back to him. When they were training together, he hugged his neck and panted, "Aha, are you not tired? I want to rest a bit." He encouraged, "Can you try a little bit more? I still have many things to ask." Immediately afterward, he laughed loudly, confusing him. Woo-sik said with a happy look, "If I had time with my son like this, maybe things would be different now, would not they?" It was also when Sinew understood his situation. "That's right. If me and my father were close, would it feel like this? Do I still have a chance?" Woo-sik, at the moment he was worried, also encouraged, "Do not worry, with a son like you, your father definitely will not die. Just like how I cannot die because of my son," he said while smiling. Back to reality, the person he's most connected to was collapsing on the arena floor. He fainted exhausted. Before Min-Soo's gaze, the drone quickly flew over for inspection. It announced, "The match ends with the victory of player hand Min-Soo." He triumphantly stepped on Woo-sik's face. Then he stretched out victoriously, "Kakaka, this place is really interesting." Instantly, his arrogant demeanor was captured by Sinew. He gritted his teeth, his face twisting with rage. He immediately launched himself out of the stands and jumped into the arena, making it impossible for anyone to stop him. This made Min-Soo even more excited. "Ha, that's how it should be." He landed in the arena, facing him. The drones at this moment slowly flew closer, but there seemed to be no action. Minho, worried, thought from above, "What is this? The guide drone is not shooting. Does it mean that as long as they do not directly fight, the guide drone would not shoot?" He wondered. He stood opposite Min-Soo, frowning and darkly threatening, "Take that foot off right now, you bastard." He, while stepping on Woo-sik's head, said, "Come clean it up yourself." His words agitated Sin. He quickly tensed his muscles to prepare to attack. At the same time, the drones simultaneously took out their guns. Senyu shouted loudly as he punched, "Take that foot off right now, you bastard." He also became agitated and raised his 2 bloody fingers. Minho immediately ran out. "We have to stop the fight by all means." Suddenly, he saw a shadow just pass by. What was that? It was Menon, and he was holding Senyu by hugging him tightly, making Senyu stagger. Menon choked him, forcing Senyu to stop. He immediately yelled, "Let go." He kept smiling, saying, "Hey, you must use the headbutt I taught you before you die." Senyu tried to continue moving. He forced out each word. "I said, let me go, you bastard." Immediately, Minho quickly slid from behind, causing Senyu to fall. Then he hugged his leg like glue, so Senyu was held tightly by both of them. Min-Soo watched them hug and control Senyu. Menon choked him tighter and tighter. He said, "You should sleep for a while." In an instant, he slowly closed his eyes, cursing in his heart, "Damn it." In front of Senyu was Min-Soo's gaze, but his vision gradually blurred again. Old memories of Woo-sik flooded back. "Sir," Woo-sik once asked, if something happens to me, can you take care of my son?" He was surprised. "What?" He said, "It's just that I hope there is a friend who can advise him not to go too astray." He wiped away his sweat with a towel and replied, "That's a given." He was a bit surprised. "What?" He added, "I still have a lot to learn from you, and becoming friends with your son would be nice too. That way I can learn more from you, right?" Woo-sik was a bit surprised and just stood there, touching himself. He quickly smiled and patted his head. "This kid is still trying to bet me around even after going out." In the present, Woo-sik was unconscious under his enemy's feet. Senyu was also unconscious and placed lying still on the floor by his teammates. Min-Soo clicked his tongue and laughed scornfully. "He looks terrible." Amanda quickly spoke up. "He's received enough attention from Kang Senyu already. Can you get lost now?" "What is it?" Min-Soo looked over. "What?" She seriously asked. "What, do you want more attention and love from Kang Senyu?" He frowned. Do you also want to die?" Amanda pointed to the recording drone and said, "Okay then, why do not you try messing with me and die at the hands of a guider? Or more accurately, die by my hands." She glared, threatening him. Min-Soo immediately stepped back, laughing and saying, "Oh, I told you to wait." He finally lifted his foot off Woo-sik's head. Then he turned his back, not forgetting to say, "I'm gonna kill everyone anyway." With those words, he quickly left towards the gate. Amanda immediately knelt down to check on her teammate. She then whispered, "He's not dead after all." Amanda waved her hand to the medical staff. "Over here." Hurry up. She looked at his hand with a large hole in it and said, that left hand must have saved him. He used the hand that was stabbed in the finger to cleverly avoid the weak points. The medical staff quickly placed Wu Six's body on a medical cart and left. Yanyu was extremely surprised that Han Min-su is truly a monster. How can he use his fingers like a weapon? Min-sik adjusted his glasses and replied, it's because Han Min-su's doping is very special. Most doping increases muscle strength and only stops at increasing muscle size, but Han Min-su has tissues growing around his bones like tendons, ligaments, and muscle sheaths developing unbelievably. It can be said that his adaptability is even more outstanding than Kang Sunu, who has enhanced bones. Yana quickly made a decision, then we must bring him to our side immediately. The secretary replied, Han Min-su is a fighter managed under the director, so it's not easy to approach him. The information made him even more regretful. Damn it. Min-sif added, please do not worry, there are still many stronger fighters, I mean even the fighters in the next match. He rested his chin on his hand. The next match is not that the female fighter who does Capoeira. A bit of background information. Capoeira is one of the most famous traditional martial arts of the Brazilian people, but it originated in Africa. The secretary quickly replied, yes, it is that female fighter. He bit his lip. What is not capoeira, just a dance with no combat effectiveness? He replied, the fact that capoeira has the appearance of a dance is not for entertainment or fun. When Portugal occupied Brazil, African slaves were brought here to work as laborers. They created a martial art to escape oppression and hardship from heavy work. They used the dance as a cover to deceive the supervisors. In reality, it is not just a simple martial art. It is a martial art filled with resentment. After Brazil gained independence, capoeira was exploited more in criminal activities, to the point where the government had to ban this martial art completely. Therefore, its combat effectiveness is not only good but also very dangerous. At this time, the arena continued with the next match. A man's eye grew slowly walked out, ranked 10th capoeira martial arts. The drone slowly flew over. It announced that all the fighters for the next match have entered the arena. Amanda glanced over. She noticed her opponent, a blonde man. He is Go Hyaksu, ranked 10th, mixed martial arts. Immediately, the drone announced the match between a manly Guryu and Go Hyaksu begins. She quickly took a fighting stance, but her opponent did not make a move. Seeing that, Amanda thought, he really looks down on me. He's completely unprepared. Then I'll make the first move, she thought, and immediately braced her hands, lifted her leg, and kicked towards him. But instead of dodging, he stood still and grinned strangely. Yanyu pondered, it's acceptable that a man like Guryu uses capoeira, but what about her opponent, Go Hyaksu? The screen displayed the image of Go Hyaksu, ranked 10th. He speculated if he's ranked 10th in the prize ranking, he's not an ordinary person. Min Sikov replied he was once an MMA fighter, but did not achieve great success. After succeeding with the sensation doping, he developed an ability to observe movement. He was even given the nickname 10-second Kato by the VIPs, and recently, his prize money has increased significantly. Yan Yu was surprised. 10-second Ki. What's that? What is that odd nickname? He added because all his previous fights were won by K-Do and never lasted longer than 10 seconds. This really intrigued him. Really, how terrible. Mincy continued, because each match ends quickly. There are no injuries, which is why the bets are pouring into him. It's the reputation of ending the fight in 10 seconds that helped him climb to a high ranking, he said. If he still keeps that reputation in this round, Minsky chimed in, if things go that way, he would not just receive a large prize money but also quickly climb to rank 5. If he keeps his unique 10-second toe nickname. Back in the arena, the man standing in front of Amanda is Go Hyaksu, ranked 10th, mixed martial arts. The drone spoke, a man Guru versus Go Hyaksu begins. The time started to count down, constantly jumping from the smallest numbers. But after not seeing her enemy make a move, Amanda thought to herself, is he still looking down on me? He's completely unprepared. Then I'll attack first. Right after thinking that, she braced her hands and kicked her leg out. Her foot was about to hit Hyaksu's head, but he just stood there smiling, thinking even the high-ranking ones are mesmerized by my relaxed defensive stance. Is not that so? As soon as he thought that, he immediately dodged to the side quickly, continuing to think, attacking freely, my ability to observe movement can see everything, even if I do not have a defense. In the 8th second, Iksu caught Amanda's leg. I can react immediately at any time. He smiled savagely, preparing for his finishing move. It's over. But when the 9th second arrived, Hyaksu realized his face was about to hit the floor, making him stand still. Hell, why am I on the floor? As fast as lightning, his head was smashed into the floor by Amanda's leg, splattering blood. Hyaksu did not even know what was happening. His eyes widened, and he stammered in his heart, my 10 seconds. By the 10th second, the opponent who was said to be a formidable opponent finally fell to the ground unconscious. The drone flew over to check. It quickly announced, the match ended with the victory of Amanzai Guru. There are techniques that cannot be done by feeling, which immediately made Yan Yu exclaim, what is happening? Minsif explained, he just thought that avoiding one attack was a successful defense, and he immediately switched to a counterattack. He wondered, avoiding an attack and then launching a counterattack is not that obvious. Minsef replied, Go Hyaksu is also like that. Usually, strong kicks to defeat an opponent will compress energy on the opposite side of the point of contact, and then release the energy towards the final point of impact. If the first attack fails, there will not be enough time to compress the energy again, so it will be difficult to attack faster than the opponent's counterattack, and it will be difficult to concentrate the force into the kick, especially when both are in the air. It becomes even more difficult. This is because there is no stepping ground to compress and support the force. He asked again, is not a man Legros also in the same situation? Clearly, they were both in the air, and the first attack also failed. Minskuk said, yes, that's right, that's why Go Hyuk-soo was so confident in his attack. But Go Hyuk-soo overlooked one thing about a man like Gru. Yeon-yu was curious, what is that? He said Cap-Ra can use hands as feet. Moreover, a man like Gru is not doped to increase muscle mass, but to increase muscle density rapidly, powerfully and quickly, without the limitations of muscle mass. Currently, a man like Gru is an unpredictable fighting machine. She can generate maximum power in any stance or time. Yeon-yu started to laugh. Fortunately, it seems there are still fighters who can be used. He added, but for that person, meeting her will not be easy anymore, which made him a little surprised. What? He replied, she ended the 10-second Do in 10 seconds, so she will inherit that nickname. All the bets that the VIPs poured into the 10-second K. Do will now go to Amanda. Amanda has many eyes on her, increasing game money and also rising in rank continuously. Yeon-yu clicked his tongue. Tusk, you mean it's impossible to compete? Min Selfie laughed and said, do not be in a hurry. There are still many strong fighters behind. He asked again, is the next fighter the 10-time champion? He replied, that's right. This match will be very interesting. Min Sivor looked at his tablet, because he will have to put in maximum effort. When he opened his eyes, the first thing Sen-yu saw was Minho. He was standing in front of him and asking, hey, are you awake yet? He immediately jumped up in worry. This is the recovery room. Sen-yu was placed in the recovery chamber. He stammered stiffly. Well, what? Why am I here? Sen-yu was panting. Then he immediately turned and asked, sir. He started to sweat. Could it be? Amanda flung the door open, standing there and replying, he's still alive. Minho was quite surprised at the speed of her appearance. Yuri already done. Amanda added, I'm sure I heard breathing. That statement partly helped Sen-yu breathe a sigh of relief. She looked back at Minho and asked, Kim Minho, your match is coming soon. Should not you be doing warm-up exercises? He only said one word, I know. In his heart he was already thinking, this time's opponent could be the reason why I came here. The person who invited him earlier had said, you will definitely meet the one who killed your brother in a fight. Minho was doubtful. How would I know when I do not even know his name? He revealed a truth. What's certain is that that person has entered the combat zone and is a former boxing fighter. This made Minho extremely shocked. He laughed again and said, I will provide more details later, but what's certain is that in the combat zone, there are only a few former professional boxers. Minho's opponent this time is Choi Won-woo, a rank 16 fighter, a boxing player. Yeon-yu spoke up and asked, so finally, among the monsters here, who are the ones in the top 5? The secretary looked at his tablet and replied, first, the fighter at rank 5 is Lev, rank 5, System of Martial Arts. A bit of background information. System of Martial Arts is a Russian combat martial art originating from the country's military force. It's not just a self-defense martial art, but also a system of training, both physical, mental, and emotional. He continued, a bodyguard who came from the Russian Special Forces. When he was a bodyguard, it was said that none of those who endangered the life of his clients survived. In the past, while on bodyguard duty, he was in danger of being investigated for using excessive force when taking down 8 people targeting his client at the same time. His former employer immediately cut ties with Lev, who was in a state of madness. The one who baptized Lev and hired him as a bodyguard is also participating in this tournament. That person is Michael Lee, chairman of the Pei Nai, a military company. Yeon-yu clicked his tongue. Teska, as expected. You need to have that kind of relationship, right? He said, now because he has succeeded with vitality-enhancing doping, he has no choice but to get into rank 5. And at rank 4, regarding Han Sang-soo, chairman of the largest construction company in the country, Aran Construction, Go Hyuk-soo ranked 4, Real Combat Taekwondo. Some background information. Real Combat Taekwondo is a style of training and applying Taekwondo in reality, focusing on combat and self-defense rather than performance or competition aspects according to the rules. In real combat, Taekwondo is applied to handle real confrontational situations where there are no rules or referees like in the ring. Min Skofi recounted he grew up with respect and admiration for his father, who was a master at a Taekwondo dojo, but for some reason separated, switched to real combat Taekwondo and entered the competitive martial arts world. He was surprised. Taekwondo is not that a martial art that is only used in tournaments. He replied, there used to be a documentary about Cap-Ra, in which many masters of famous martial arts participated to test the speed and power of kicks from each style. While many martial arts produce a kick power of about 400 kilograms to a maximum of about 700 kilograms, the kick of a P-Zinra reached 860 kilograms, making everyone amazed. And finally, Taekwondo was also tested, and the power was terrifying, up to 1043 kilograms. Hearing this, Yeon-yu stood still. What? Min Saifei added, especially Go Hyung-ho is a real combat taekwondo expert, currently with his success in using elasticity-enhancing doping. No one can match him in being able to generate the power of a single kick. And at rank 3 is Ryan, a doping addict brought in by Go Yaesu, chairman of the pharmaceutical company Cat Bio. He did not care about any means or methods just to increase his physical strength, a madman who implanted steel into some parts of his body just to increase his physical strength. Currently, because of his drug addiction, his mental state has become disordered and now he is a crazy warrior. And the person ranked second in the current ranking is a wanted criminal, Mate Rim, holding rank 2, a hitman. The one who hired this person was Park Dong-soo, chairman of the loan shark company Pine Life. He frowned. A fool like Park Dong-soo still managed to get into rank 2. Min Skuk said, although he is a lesser-known fighter, what is certain is that he is a lunatic who came here to escape the pursuit of the police and satisfy his passion for killing brutally. His fighting style is too unreasonable and powerful. Most people have not even understood what's happening before they re-killed. This made him exclaim, damn, all these are monsters. He then continued to observe the screen, but the winner of the previous tournament, and currently in rank 1, is truly a monster. He spoke up, if it's rank 1 then. Suddenly a fighter with a huge body directly broke through the door, surprising both Min Saisif and Yun Yu. He frowned, who is it? The guy gave a scary smile, only saying one word, I'm sorry, I have trouble controlling my strength. Looking at his physique, he could also be considered a wrestler, and also the person they were both discussing. His name is Cam, rank 1, Gurkha mercenary. Yun Yu was so scared that he fell backward, shouting, Guy drones. Immediately the drones flew over. Suddenly a man walked in, putting his hands behind his back and standing behind Cam. He called out to Yona, you useless piece of shit. He immediately recognized him, He said, you think that just by following me here, you can defeat me. He was none other than Chayak Hyan, the first executive director of the Hashin Group. Do not forget our bet, and be prepared to face the consequences. He could only clench his teeth in silence. He laughed and said, Howa, a bet about resigning from the company, and bringing in a high school student, so foolish beyond redemption. Yun Yu endured the insults without being able to resist. He sneered contemptuously. Do you know what happens when you violate a bet in the combat zone? You better not think about quitting and beg for help instead. Then he left with his number 1 fighter. Not forget to wave goodbye. Well, have fun with the high school student. This made him scowl, that bastard. Then he turned to Min So-si, what are you doing? Quickly find someone who can defeat this Cam guy. But he suddenly held his head, trembling and saying, no, is not it too late? After all, victory will still come from the top 5, right? Min Skuk said, the odds are high but not certain. He was surprised. What? He replied, because the effect of doping is unpredictable. Some fighters suddenly become championship contenders after the second doping test in the top 16 round. Although it takes a bit of time, I am searching for such fighters. Yun Yu wondered, so the candidates have appeared. He replied, a total of 5 candidates have been selected. The first is Ichigo Ryo, who will face Kang Senyu. And there's also a man Lai Gru, along with Judo Master Chu Wu Gang. And yes, the 5th candidate is 2 boxing dark horse fighters. They will face each other this time. In this match, it's Kim Min-ho, ranked 28th, fighting Choi Won-woo, ranked 16th. Soon, the time for the match arrived. Min-ho stood opposite Won-woo. He quickly stepped into his stance, speaking, do you know someone named Kim Min-sung? Kim Min-ho, ranked 28th, is a boxing fighter. The guy on the other side had a black mark on his forehead. He was Choi Won-woo, ranked 16th, also a boxing fighter. He replied, how could I not know? Min-ho immediately bit his teeth in annoyance. Min-ho frowned. You mean you know my brother? He thought to himself, just because I met him, I abandoned everything. Immediately, he quickly gathered energy within his body. Then, he jumped high into the air, surprising his opponent. While Won-woo was unguarded, he quickly rushed to attack. Immediately, with just one hook punch from Min-ho, the unsuspecting guy took it directly. He said loudly while preparing to strike a second time. Who the hell are you piece of shit? Immediately after that, he continued to strike Won-woo's abdomen, and he could not resist. He coughed up blood, his eyes widened in shock. Min-ho pulled his hand back. Then he continued to gather momentum in his arm, shouting in his heart, why is it like this? Immediately, a punch landed on the opponent's blow, completely knocking Won-woo backward. Before he could move a finger, he immediately slid back. He hit his body hard against the wall, causing blood to splatter everywhere. He slowly approached, seriously asking, what is the reason why, in the end? He spoke enough for now. He was surprised. What? Quickly power formed inside him. Won-woo threw his head back and laughed savagely. I mean, I need to feel a little pressure for the doping to be effective. Immediately, he saw himself burst out from the wall. Min-ho was extremely surprised. He laughed and said, I really want to know, with the same speed doping, is there different levels or not? As soon as he landed, he quickly wound up his arm. But as he went to strike, he could not see Won-woo anywhere. In an instant, the guy from the side punched Min-ho, causing his face to splatter with blood. He instinctively quickly dodged out of range with extremely fast speed. Won-woo also used his agility to chase Min-ho. Where do you think you're going? His eyes widened in surprise. No matter how fast I move, there's no gap. He moved back and forth, laughing, and concluded, indeed, there is a difference in level. Immediately, after just a few moves, he had caught up with Minho's head and landed a punch straight to his face. He laughed, quickly pulled his hand back, and continued to build up momentum. A punch at maximum speed here, you brat. Immediately after that, Minho was hit repeatedly in the face. Even he did not expect to be controlled by his opponent. He thought in his heart, no way. Minho's whole body quickly slid down the floor. Wonwoo looked at his body lying face down on the arena floor. He opened his mouth wide and laughed, saying, even if I risk taking hits until I wake up, my speed doping is truly top-notch. Suddenly, his body, which was lying still, started to have small, continuous movements. He was really annoyed, seriously saying, hey, if you keep moving like that, what am I supposed to do? The guy drones cannot decide a winner. Then, the only option is to kill you. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his foot, preparing to stomp. Minho, at that moment, recalled his memories. His voice echoed, his brother was watching him exhausted, saying, when you think not only the opponent, but yourself as well has reached the end, take one last breath. His brother took a deep breath to show Minho, it will give you one last chance, your final breath. Right after remembering, a surge of power suddenly flashed through him. It quickly traveled to his heart, and his heart beat faster than ever. Wonwoo, who was planning to defeat his opponent, was extremely surprised when Minho disappeared in a flash. He moved with the speed of a lightning bolt from one side to the other. Minho lowered his body and braced his hands. He gritted his teeth, frowned, and shouted, damn it, so that brat has to take hits to awaken too. As soon as he finished speaking, it was also the moment Minho charged forward at full speed with his fist aiming for him. This made the signal lights inside Wonwoo alert. I have to dodge at maximum speed. Just after thinking it, he quickly ran backward. But Wonwoo's speed was nothing compared to Minho now. With just a slide, he blocked his path, easily sweeping Wonwoo's leg, making it impossible for him to turn around. Seizing the opportunity as he fell, he immediately attacked. He could only curse, damn it. Wonwoo, with his eyes wide in fear, muttered there's no way to avoid it anymore. Minho shouted as he struck, why did my brother die, you bastard? He was quickly shaken by something. What is this? While he was in thought, Minho's fist had touched Wonwoo's stomach. He delivered a powerful blow, pinning him to the floor. Yuna, watching from the stands, was surprised. What is this? The director was no less surprised when watching from the camera. A second awakening. Back in the arena, Wonwoo was now lying face up, motionless. Minho seized this moment to gather his arm. He gritted his teeth. I'm asking for the last time. Why did my brother die? He now exhausted, opened his eyes wide, stuttering. Kim Min-sung was murdered. Is it true? This quickly made Minho feel strange. What? Minho could not believe it. What, was not it you? Then how do you know about my brother? He breathed heavily, replying, how could someone who has encountered boxing not know about a record-holding champion? He became even more confused. Then who did that? Wonwoo revealed there is a junkie specializing in finding boxing masters. He heard that and suddenly stopped. Then he widened his eyes in anger. Who is that in the end? Before I collapse, tell me who it is. Quickly, the drones quickly approached. After scanning the situation, it announced, this round has ended with Choi Wonwoo in a non-combat state. The winner's player Kim Min-ho. Then a series of announcements. Ting, game money has increased. In the control room, a male medic examined Minho's information on the tablet screen, sighing, this guy Kim Min-ho is truly amazing. The director said at the same time, he awakened for the second time without any additional doping. He replied, it seems that the results of the experiment have started to appear. Although not as good as the first awakened who broke all limits 20 years ago, there is now someone who has reached 80% in terms of the index. The director said, even though the first awakened disappeared, we still develop based on his genes, but breaking through is very difficult. Then, he dangerously said, if only he had not disappeared back then, I do not know where he went. In the Team S private room, Sen-woo was diligently training. He was practicing leg skills. He practiced and encouraged himself just a little bit more. Menon, sitting in the recovery pod, spoke, hey, why do not you stop, making him a little confused and turn around? He laughed and said, are you planning to destroy this whole place? Sen-woo took the time to observe the room more carefully. It was indeed almost completely broken. Menon continued, are you planning to collapse before the match? His face was covered in sweat, his breathing was also a bit rapid, and he thought, if I want to become as strong as those monsters here. Remembering what Woo-sik once said, if you push your body to its final limit and then recover, you will have much stronger muscles than before. And the best thing for muscle recovery is sleep. If you divide one day into two, use your muscles to the maximum and then have a deep sleep. If you can do that twice a day, then maybe you can become twice as strong as others. Of course, it's only possible for someone with terrifying recovery ability like you. He returned to his thoughts. No, 2 times is not enough. Senna looked at his palm. He slowly sat down in the recovery pod. Menon was a little confused. What is it? Are you going to sleep again? Senna unfastened his leg brace. It immediately fell straight to the ground, breaking the floor. Menon saw that and said with interest, Coco, I said you would be determined to the death. but never said that you would actually die. He finally curled up inside the recovery pod, and the pod door slowly closed. Inside, Senu breathed heavily, thinking, this is the third time. Trust in my recovery ability, just like what Sir said. Trust. Slowly, his thoughts grew weak, and then he went silent. Menon looked at Senu's pod and said, Cuckoo, training to exhaustion 3 times a day and hoping to recover with 3 short sleeps. If he succeeds then, he'll become very delicious, he said and stuck his tongue out with great interest. The drone flew over and announced, Player Minon, please proceed to the main arena. He looked up, alright, is there a delicious person about to appear now? Then he left with the drone. In the arena at this time, there was a fighter who was seriously using his fingers to dig deep into the wall, firmly holding his meditative pose. He was Zhu Wukang, ranked 15th, a judo fighter. A little side information, judo is a modern Japanese martial art and sport. Judo focuses on techniques of throwing and bringing the opponent down to the ground, locking arms, strangling and controlling on the floor. Punches, kicks, and weapon attacks are only learned in kata exercises and are not used in competitions. Yana Yu sat in the stands, looking down at the arena and asking, Zhu Wukang is one of the candidates you chose, right? Min Scof replied, he has achieved tremendous gripping strength thanks to strength doping. Once he gets a hold of you, your muscles and bones will be crushed. At that time, your fighting spirit will also disappear. But the real danger is the judo techniques enhanced by that grip. Even if it is a doping user, when they are thrown to the floor, all the bones in their body will shatter. Yanyu frowned and asked, so what kind of person is that Menon guy who's facing Zhu Wukang, ranked 45th, so I do not need to worry, right? The secretary replied, there is no information about this person, which made him more surprised. What? He replied, it seems like he was selected directly after fighting. Where he came from or what martial art he uses, there's really no information. I've also never seen any of Menon's matches. There's one strange thing about Menon. He is still in the situation of waiting for a doping verdict. Returning to the arena, Menon had appeared. He was ranked 45th and was still continuing the challenge of trying to lick his own elbow. He landed on the ground, stomping his foot hard. As introduced, Zhu Wukang, ranked 15th, judo fighter. The drone flew over. It announced the match between Zhu Wukang and Menon begins. Wukang put out his hand in a judo stance and said, no need to drag it out, it will end in 1 round. Before he could attack, he took the initiative and rushed forward. Okay then. In a moment, Menon deceived the opponent's vision, then launched himself behind him and raised his hand high. Your nape looks delicious. But Wukang grabbed it tightly. He dodged his head to the side. Waiting for Menon's arm to grab, he firmly grabbed it and lifted him up. Wukang said loudly, 1 round. Immediately, Menon's entire body was lifted off the ground by Wukang's throw. He was overwhelmed and cursed. What the hell? Menon's whole body was slammed onto the arena floor, creating an earthquake. It was so strong that Menon's eyes widened in surprise. Right after the throw, smoke rose from where he was lying. Yana, watching the match, was surprised. What is it? He got pinned to the ground. Even the secretary did not expect it. Although he knew he was strong, to end so quickly. The drone slowly flew over to inspect. It announced immediately, this round ends because player Zhu Wukang is unconscious. Immediately after that, Wukang's body quickly fell down, stiff. The drone announced, Menon has won. He was lying under the dent, still diligently using his tongue to try to touch his elbow. Yanyu quickly changed his expression. What is happening? Why Zhu Wukang? The secretary was speechless. No, I do not know. This is the first time I've encountered a situation like this. I completely cannot understand it. Menon licked his lips with interest at this time. He leaned his head back and said in his stomach, it's probably time for Kang Sun Yu to wake up, Let's see if Kang Sun Yu is ripe enough yet, or if he's already burnt. Inside Senyu's recovery pod, the pod lid slowly opened. Senyu slowly came into contact with normal temperature. He breathed a sigh of relief. He slowly opened his eyes, looking at his fist and thinking, it's different, finally succeeded. Senyu sat up. Whether I've succeeded or not, I still have to do it. Is Mom really safe? Can I trust that woman? He gritted his teeth. I have to meet that bastard. Scout! Immediately the drone slowly flew over. It spoke, there is a message from Scout. Senyu was extremely surprised. After a while, Min Sek spoke, you can take off your blindfold. We've finally met. As soon as he saw him, Senyu immediately grabbed Min Sai's collar, shouting loudly, who are you, you bastard? He grabbed his wrist and said, calm down. If you die here, you cannot do anything. He gritted his teeth. You better answer my questions honestly. I have risked my life too. Do you know where my parents are? He replied, of course, right. Senyu was surprised. What? Min Scope said seriously, I am taking care of them. He shouted, do not lie. I heard everything about dealing with my parents in the recovery room. He said, although there was indeed a request from a VIP. After lying that your parents disappeared, I'm still taking care of them. Senyu was surprised. What are you talking about? Min Sikof replied, anyway, I bet everything on you, Kang Senu, regardless of the doping issue. Director Cheon finally followed my choice too. He was so shocked that he slowly backed away. No way. Surely he said. Did Kang Seno really believe that he heard the story about his parents in the recovery room? Are my employees not? Hearing this, he was even more shocked. What? Min Scafi continued, hearing that your parents would be dealt with in the recovery room right after waking up. Chae Sung-yan appeared in front of you. Do you think that's a coincidence? Did she say she was taking care of your parents? There is no truth from that woman. Indeed, the president had to personally fire her because his two sons only knew how to endure. Senyu bit his teeth and frowned. You think I'm stupid? You think I'll be tricked again? That woman definitely knows where my parents are. He replied then, what proof did Chae Sung-yan give you that she was with your parents? He could only stammer. That's because I could not bring anything here. He then rolled up his sleeve and said, is that so then? How about this? Then he held out his arm to Senyu. It was his mother's writing, engraved on his arm. Son, I'm still well, so do not worry. Senyu was immediately stunned. This is definitely my mother's writing, Min-sok said, because there is a date written on it. Now you know who they are with. He slightly lowered his face. There can be many written words. He seriously said whether to believe it or not is up to you. Kang Sen-yu, first let me share my plan with you. Then, pointing towards Senyu, our VIPs have been eagerly waiting for Kang Sen-yu to regain attention, and they particularly emphasized paying special attention to the opponent in the next match, which is about to start now. If you win against that opponent, VIP Chae Yan-yu will have no choice but to choose you Kang Sen-yu. If you keep racing with us towards victory, all problems, including your parents, will be resolved smoothly. He bit his lip, the next opponent. In the arena at this time, Senyu's opponent was revealed. Ichika Ryo was entering the arena. Min-si then reminded him, remember, Chae Sung-yan, that woman, does not care about winning. Her goal is to ruin her brother's plans. She has no reason to protect Kang Sen-yu's parents. If you do not choose us in the round of 16, I would not be able to protect Kang Sen-yu's parents either. Back in the present, Senyu grabbed his head. Damn it, you bastards, who is right here? It does not matter, I do not have time to think. Anyway, if I do not win against him, it's all over. He is Ichika Ryo, ranked 15th Kudo Martial Arts. Yeonyu observed the arena and said, if Kang Sen-yu is eliminated in this match then, Chae Sung-yan's expression will surely be worth watching. On the other side of the stands, Sung-yan watched silently. She smiled and said, let's see who will laugh last. Ryo stood in a defensive stance. Senyu did the same, with a sharp look. He thought, is that stance an offensive one? Adding a calf kick might be better. Moreover, my performance today is at its best. Immediately, he charged forward, using his stump kick, but he managed to raise his leg in time. Then he used his knee to attack Senna. He was immediately surprised. A kick, after if I counterattack then. But unlike what he imagined, he did not use a kick, but immediately changed his stance, using his hands to grab his shoulder and leg. Before Senyu could react, Ryo directly smashed his head onto the floor. He immediately coughed up blood. He bent down once again, raising his fist. But in a moment, he slipped out of the attack range. Yeon-woo watched the fight with interest. What is not that person an expert in attacking? What are those moves on the ground? The secretary said, Ichika Ryo has trained in Kudo with no limit to attack, which made him surprised. What? He said, in Kudo, there are not only striking techniques but also grappling and locking techniques. Not only that, he also trains headbutting and attacking the opponent's weak points. Attacking weak points, how crazy! Because during training, almost all moves can be done with bare hands, so facing Ichika Ryo with bare hands is like facing hell. Down in the arena, Senyu was recovering his stance facing Ryo. He was a bit surprised to notice a detail. That kid. He was not scared at all, although his face was a bit gaunt. Senyu did not seem to be discouraged at all. He immediately launched another attack while he was still thinking. Ryo did not have time to react, and received a strong blow to the forehead. In just a moment he ducked down to dodge Senyu's swing. He bent down again and put out his hand. The remaining shoulder pushed strongly, hitting Senyu's stomach directly, causing him to open his mouth wide. He coughed up blood with a painful expression, then fell to the ground, not forgetting to brace his hand and slide. Yeonyu said with satisfaction, as expected, that high school student is reaching his end. The fighter slowly backed away and observed him. Even he was surprised. It was Senna. He was smiling as he slowly got up. Ryo wondered, he's still smiling. He thought, then he pushed his leg back, preparing to build momentum to kick directly into his face. He also thought, let's see how long that mouth can still twitch. But not as planned, Senyu suddenly stood up from the floor and launched both of his hands forward. He loudly said, you think getting so close will be effective against me? Ryo then continued to grab Senyu's neck, saying, I do not just have striking techniques. Down below, what he did at this moment was use his teeth to bite a piece of flesh on the fighter's leg. He was extremely irritated, this lunatic. Then, he used his knee to kick him hard in the stomach. Ryo raised his hand and yelled, are you a beast or something? He immediately yelled back, lunatic. Ryo immediately kicked him in the face. Senyu slid back a long way. He panted, looked at him defensively and thought, I was taken by surprise. A piece of his leg was torn, Ryo thought. Because of my stance, the kick had no power. Geez, is this guy really a beast or something? Senyu on this side still kept his triumphant smile. Yeonyu stood up suddenly, becoming anxious. What's happening? Min-seki adjusted his glasses and replied, I forgot, Kang Senyu, that guy. has never been restricted by anything. In the arena, Senyu quickly took the initiative. He rushed towards him. Ryo clenched his palms, preparing to punch and defend. He yelled, "You think I'll fall for the same trick?" But instead of attacking directly, he suddenly lowered his body, making Ryo worried. Is he going to bite my leg again? He immediately looked down and prepared to punch. You think it will work again? Surprisingly, a foot appeared above his head from who knows when. Just a strong stomp, and his face was shattered. It turned out that Senyu below was bracing one hand, pushing his body up and executing a technical kick. Subconsciously, he suddenly remembered the conversation with Amanda. He and she stood facing each other. He said, "On the strongest calf Pausuvan removes." Pointing at himself, he asked Amanda Guryu, "Can you hit me once?" She looked at him carefully and slowly replied, "Any move? I can take it. Are you deliberately looking down on Kapi Davin Ra?" Or she was about to say, she suddenly bent down in front of his surprised eyes. At the same time, she braced one hand on the ground to balance her body, raised her leg high and kicked straight into his head. Unable to defend, he took the full force of her devastating kick, then fell hard to the ground. She bent down and looked at him. "You know you have the ability to copy the moves exactly after being hit." Hearing that, he did not say anything, just smiled with a cunning look. Back to the present, he immediately imitated Amanda's Kaporo move. He bent down in front of Ryo's surprised face. Ichika Ryo looked at him, gritting his teeth in anger, in his heart thinking, "Is he going to bite my leg again?" With that thought, Ryo raised his hand into a fist and struck down on his head, asking, "You think that move will work again?" Before Ryo could punch him in the head, he suddenly noticed his leg moving straight towards his head. Unable to dodge, he took the full force of his devastating kick. Up in the stands, director Yanu gritted his teeth, with an extremely surprised expression. "That's Kap Pavinra." Down below, Ichika Ryo also widened his eyes in extreme surprise. After taking the full force of Senyu's kick, Ryo regained his composure and used both hands to hold his leg tight. While holding his leg tight, Ichika Ryo also put his leg back in position to kick straight into his head. Cheonyu excitedly yelled, "Kick him in the face." Ichika Ryo's leg just kicked forward at the same time that his head shot up high to dodge it. He looked at him and wondered, how can he move like that? Senyu used his remaining leg to kick Ichika Ryo straight in the face. The surprised and angry expression on Ryo's face as he took Senyu's unexpected kick. After the kick, he was flung away. Not wanting to fall to the ground, Ryo used his hand to brace himself on the ground, supporting his body weight, causing the tiles to shatter and fly up. He also jumped down to the ground, balancing himself in a pouncing stance. Staring at his opponent, he exhaled and thought, "My body is moving the way I want it to. Just one high kick and it'll be over." Suddenly, he was confused and wondered. Ichika Ryo stood up and took his fighting stance. He said with a sharp look, "Your movements are not human, truly beyond my expectations. From now on, I'll consider you a beast and hunt you." Right after saying that, Ryo punched his fist forward. His arm brushed across Senyu's face. He quickly retreated a little, thinking, with my current abilities, I can definitely avoid and counterattack. Suddenly, he headbutted him. Senyu was immediately shocked because he did not react in time. A headbutt. Right after that, Ryo punched him in the stomach, causing Senyu to cough up blood, saying to himself, "Oak, I need to stay calm." He took a breath, then withdrew his hand, preparing for the final blow. Ryo said, "From now on your organs will be shattered." Immediately, he pointed at 4 places on his stomach. You could see them piercing through his body. Senyu then coughed up a large amount of blood, along with marks on his stomach and chest. He whispered, "It's over," then he raised his leg, kicked him hard in the stomach. Senyu's face was already gaunt at this time. Ryo watched that and thought, he's unconscious, so it's over. Yanyu saw his miserable appearance. He laughed with pleasure. Kang Senyu and Che Sung-yan have lost. Sung-yan on this side still held on a hope. It's not over yet, if what I heard is true. Immediately, Senyu grabbed his ankle, with a strange smile, making Ryo yell, "How can you suddenly wake up?" But that would not change anything. Suddenly, he headbutted him, using a headbutt to overwhelm his opponent, making Ryo feel agonizing pain, immediately being pushed back. This guy is even practicing headbutting. He took that opportunity to launch himself behind Ryo, making him worry and say to himself, these movements are not those of a beast, but those of a monster. This guy's internal organs are definitely shattered. His eyes kept tracking Senyu's movements. Right now, it's just a temporary spasm due to the side effects of doping. If I can just block one attack, I can finish him off with a counterattack. While lost in thought, Senyu suddenly stopped and then lunged forward. He tried to use his leg but was caught by him. Ryo said loudly, "I caught you." But it was not anything major that could stop him. Senyu then forcefully pulled his leg back, tearing his pants because of Ryo's hand. He quickly realized, damn it, in front. His leg was slowly kicking towards Ryo. He was flustered. If he could not avoid it, he might as well take the hit. Sure enough, compared to Senyu's speed, his leg took the short leg kick. His bone structure was shattered by Senyu's steel-like shin. Immediately, it bent in a horrifying way. Yanayu observed, angry and scratching his head, yelled loudly, "You damn bastard, his leg is shattered." But Ryo still did not fall down. Instead, he used his hand to grab his shoulder, making Senyu a little surprised. He can still move. He then took another breath, clenched his palm into a fist and said, Too bad, but this is the final blow. Finally, Ryo punched hard in the center of his stomach. Senu suddenly smiled even wider. He quickly turned to the other side. Ryo could not catch up. He was immediately struck by another short kick on his only healthy leg, causing him to cough up blood in pain. The fighter quickly fell down to the ground of the arena. But at the same time, Senu was also affected by the previous attack in an instant. Both of them had now collapsed.